So I feel like now it's football season comes up a lot on this show or on any show. Now it's football season, right? Like SEC Media Days comes. Now it's football season, but it's really not. Then practice begins. Now it's football season. It kind of is, but like But OB, we got games this week, so now it's football season? Or nah, not really for us. We got to wait a week. Which one is it?
Well, I know this. I mean, I'll be interested in rooting against Notre Dame this weekend.
In Dublin.
Yeah. And there's a game like, is it Thursday or Monday? I can't remember who it is.
I believe there's a game Thursday.
But there's a game I know I'm interested in. I've already forgotten who it is. To me, it's football season when A&M kicks off.
Yes. By the way, I don't see a game for Thursday this week. The first game listed.
Is it Monday?
Is Saturday at Navy at Notre Dame.
Maybe it's Sunday. Is there like Clemson and somebody?
I just see Saturday games on this. But I mean, ESPN's been wrong before.
Well, no, it's probably me. But
by the way, it's TexAgs Radio. Did you know that?
I did.
Okay. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. You knew that too.
I did know that.
We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Did you know that?
Jason Rollo. Yeah, I knew that.
Good family right there. And this is the Go Hour.
It is.
Which is presented by
the warehouse at CC Creations.
Yeah, maroon never looked so good with Maroon U. Did you know that?
I knew that.
Yeah. And it is Monday, August 21st, 2023. We've got a press conference today. Big news, maybe?
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Maybe we find out who the quarterback is going to be, but I would doubt it. I would think the last 3 years, Jimbo, if I got this right, announced the starting quarterback on August 25th twice and August 27th once. So I would think it's going to be later in the week.
And I doubt he calls another press conference to do it. It'll just be announced to the team potentially if that's the case.
Liucci will find out.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And Liucci will alert everybody.
When it's time.
And then all the buzzards that flock around will glom onto that and release it like they knew.
So I want people to become TexAgs subscribers and read Billy's scrimmage notes. So I'm not going to give all of that information. But what I will say is there's some really good offensive tidbits in that. Optimism on the offensive side of the football. And look, to me, people freak out when they hear the defense dominated the offense. And then, oh my gosh, the defense is terrible because Connor Wegman was unstoppable. Does that sound like a movie trailer voice?
It kind of does, yeah.
In a world where Olin Buchanan wears a Hawaiian shirt, we do TexAgs Radio. Anyway, that was not my best bit ever. In fact, it might be the worst.
No.
No, not the worst.
No, it wasn't that bad.
The offensive optimism. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything until you play, but what does it mean for this team having an offense that potentially can have Connor going deep 6 times for some touchdowns?
Look, after what I saw last year, any indications, any conversation that the offense is making progress, I think is welcome.
Yep.
I mean, last year, it's like hoping for rain. You know, last year was the drought. And if you get a forecast that says in, 12 days, it's going to start raining, you can say, oh, man, I'm looking forward to those 12 days. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness, yeah.
Thank goodness that, that there's something, there's a break on the way in the forecast. By the way, I don't know if we're in a drought, so I don't know. I'm not telling everybody that there's rain coming in 12 days, but I'm saying that in 12 days when the Aggies start,
it's going to be raining touchdowns.
It might be raining touchdowns.
God, so great.
It would be.
Like I have this reoccurring dream. I really don't, but it just makes sense for radio to say it like that. But I do have this reoccurring thought.
Okay.
That they're going to put up some freaking points in New Mexico. I had this vision. And it might not mean a thing if they don't. It might mean everything in the world if they do, right? So, but I have this vision that we're going to see multiple touchdowns in the first quarter, multiple touchdowns. That's my vision that I am hoping I put into action by putting in the words out there.
Well, I hope so. And I'll tell you, it's true that if you don't or if you go out and blow out a New Mexico team that's going to be overmatched, big deal, right?
Right.
Except that's what good teams do to overmatch teams. And last year, they don't just blow out Sam Houston. You're thinking, okay, well, it was Sam Houston. You can learn a lot from it. Doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And then you lost to Appalachian State the next week. And then you go, oh. So, you'll watch Alabama, Georgia, and they'll play those overmatched teams and blow them out. So blow them out.
Blow them out in the first half.
Right.
Step
Flex.
on their throat.
Flex like Nuño in Gold's Gym.
I don't really flex that much. I'm not a mirror flex guy.
Maybe you do, and you just can't help it.
Huh.
Like
when I like,
yeah. When someone asks you, hey, which way to the men's room? You go, oh, it's right over there.
When's the last time you stretched?
Stretched?
Yeah. Pitch and pose.
I stretched this morning.
Did you really?
Yeah, not as much as I should, but I stretched
Good
this
for
morning.
you.
Yeah.
Good for you. That has nothing to do with our topic today. Anyway, so there's optimism here with the offense because the report's back, the talent that's here. I would say, and again, with Nick Saban, there's always mind games being played, and everything that he says, right? Everything is a misdirection. Everything is to make you think one thing and whatever, right? I want you to read into his comments about his quarterback situation. Here's Nick Saban over the weekend talking about his QB situation. It's going to come in a moment. I know it is. I feel it.
It's Nick Savage. Get us Nick Saban.
What's up?
Hi, buddy. How are
Howdy.
you?
Good morning, y'all. Sorry, I'm training people. I'm running around. I was away from the computer for a second, and Hannah yelled at me. So howdy. Good morning, y'all.
Hi, buddy. We were just hoping to hear from Nick Saban on the quarterback situation.
I can do that for you.
We haven't really wanted to say hello to you yet, but good morning. Let's go behind the glass. It doesn't count until I say, let's go behind the glass and say hi.
True.
To Nick. I was about to call you Nick Saban.
They said Nick Saban, so I heard Nick. But anyways, you want to hear that?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay, here it is right here.
Thank you.
With the quarterbacks as a whole, what did you see from that group today?
They all got to play. They all took snaps. They all completed some passes. They all made some throws that weren't as good as they should have been. And they all got sacked. That's what I saw.
Well, he's not showing his hand.
No, he's not showing his hand, which makes me feel like he feels good about it. Or no? Does he? He's not. Is he honest? Honest? No.
I think he's looking at a work in progress, and he's not happy where it is yet. But I saw Jalen Milroe start against A&M in a win.
He did.
Throw 3 touchdown passes. Now, he's not Bryce Young.
He's not. But Will Anderson isn't there on the other side.
But look, who is Nick Saban's last 3 quarterbacks been?
Oh, Mac Jones, Bryce Young,
Jalen Hurts.
Tua.
Tua. Oh, at last 4. And he's probably used to seeing quarterback play at a very high level.
Yeah.
And he's not. I take from that he's just not seeing it at a level that he's comfortable with or satisfied with. And he doesn't know if it's coming.
Well, and the difference is
that doesn't mean it's bad quarterback.
No. But the difference is in years past, they weren't so offensive minded. There's been a shift in Alabama, right? I mean, they were more a defensive-minded team, and they still have very good defense. I'm not saying they don't. But they needed a game manager in the early 2010s, not what they've had, which have been elite quarterback play.
Yeah, I mean, I think it started, everybody talks about it, with the hiring of Lane Kiffin several years ago as their offensive coordinator, and they became this spectacular offensive juggernaut,
right?
And they added to that with really good defense. And I think that they're going to be a good offense, but I question whether they're going to be that explosive elite offense.
Yeah,
because it starts with that quarterback situation.
It does start with the quarterback situation, which is why, if we're going to read body language and look into Nick, we'll probably look into Jimbo as well whenever he does announce his quarterbacks. Whatever he said, he'll say something about the quarterbacks today. And I think he's been pretty pleased from what I've seen the last
But
few
is
times.
Nick Saban ever happy?
No. No,
Right.
but
See, you remember Lou Holtz? Everything was always terrible, but you watch it and you say, that clown is just an act.
with Nick, it looks real,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I don't know. Here's the question with that. Is it because they're really not struggling, or they really are struggling, or is it because Nick Saban is never satisfied?
Was Michael Jordan ever satisfied?
Supposedly not until he got the trophy in his hand.
And then the next day, he went back to work.
Yeah.
Right? And I think Nick is wired that same way. I think some of the greats, it is a curse to be great because the pressure of being great, the next day starts all over again. You're never where you want to be. You see the flaws in yourself. You look in the mirror like, gosh, wrinkles, I see this, I see the gray hair. Like everything is a negative point of view as opposed to being able to look in the mirror and be like, look what we accomplished this year. But he's done it so much, he feels the pressure of living up to the GOAT status every year.
And the fact is, as crazy as it sounds, he hasn't won a national championship. He's coming on 3 years without a national championship. Blasphemy over there.
Blasphemy.
So
They had a down year last year with 10 wins.
is the pressure starting to mount?
No, they won 11 last year.
Well, with the bowl game, yeah.
I count the bowl game.
Yeah, so do I.
At least if it's
They
for
worked
A&M.
over K-State.
Yeah, they did. Now we can check in with Nick Savage. Nick, do you have anything you want to add to the conversation?
Not to this particularly, but I can fill in. Talking about week 0 games is I guess what they're called now. But like you mentioned, Notre Dame Navy's probably the must-watch game of the day if there is one. Again, like you said, that's in Dublin. You got UTEP, Jackson State, UMass, New Mexico State. No thanks. A couple of other forgettable ones. Hawaii at Vanderbilt. I guess that's
SEC.
SEC. So somewhat interesting. USC and San Jose State.
I'll watch it.
That's probably the one in the nightcap that I'll watch.
Yeah.
And then FIU and Louisiana Tech. So that's all the games that are going on this week. I think you mentioned Florida and Utah. That's next Thursday, OB.
Yeah,
so,
next Thursday. Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
at least
that's
we
what
got
I'm
college football back.
I didn't
That's the
mean it
big
was
thing.
this Thursday.
Okay.
I knew everything starts on Saturday.
Right.
And then
The following
later
Thursday.
in the week. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's a game I'd be interested in watching.
Because last year I thought Florida was going to get – I thought they were going to get handled. You on this show said, it's SEC. No, they're not going to get handled. Anthony Richardson had a great game. Do you still feel that way this year, Utah, Florida?
No, I think Florida's going to be a terrible football team. I don't know if Utah will be as good as they were last year, but I think Florida, I'm not believing in Graham Mertz, and they're on the road this time.
Yeah. I think Cam Rising's been hurt.
So I'm going to take Utah.
He's suffered an ACL injury back in the bowl game, I believe. So, but they have not, at least the last I read, he has not been cleared to go, but we'll know here in the next few days. Let's go to the News and Social Center quickly and check in with Jared Schultz. Jared, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
How are you, man?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, you can't steal my thing. Good try.
you know why you can't steal it? Because you laughed afterwards, so we knew it was a bit.
Yeah, it was less of stealing, more of poking fun, but I
Or
love
maybe
it, Nick.
you're paying homage to the great Nick Savage.
I love it. Yeah. I got a couple things for you. First thing, some kind of bad news for Devon Achane. Second appearance for the Dolphins. Had a couple good runs, but then he was thrown down on his shoulder. Ended up kind of leaving the game. We don't know the specifics of his injury, but there's speculation it's going to be minor. But regardless, kind of missing those preseason reps is not going to help his case for trying to get some more opportunities in the regular season.
Oh, I think he's already proven
I think,
himself.
I think he's fine as long as he gets
He got
healthy.
hurt at the end of a 20-yard run.
Yeah.
There's some Achane haters on Twitter though I've seen.
There's a hater for everything.
Yeah.
Good point.
I bet you none of them are out of Miami
OB,
because he's been the rave of that camp in Miami.
haters gonna hate, right, OB?
The haters are going to hate.
Yeah, that's what they do.
You know.
They're gonna hate. Do you have some
Lovers
haters?
are going to love, though.
Can you be a lover and a hater?
I guess you can love to hate something.
Yeah, you can. Jared, you ever get some hate on social?
Just a couple. Yeah.
You ever ban people, block them?
No, I don't ban or block anybody.
Oh, I do.
I'll let them. You gotta let them speak, because if you ban or block them, then you're just restricting them, and then that makes them more angry. They're gonna create new accounts, and
Yeah, but I just,
you gotta learn to ignore it.
I did tell somebody I was going to ban them from TexAgs. I didn't do it. I was just messing with them because they're rude. So I'm like, all right, you're gone.
the way I said, like on Twitter, I see it is that's kind of like my house, my account, right?
Yeah.
And I invite people in. If you come in, hey, great, follow me, great. But if you become a
A pest?
Well, I want to go stronger than pest.
Okay.
You know, with the first letter of the alphabet, followed by if you're going to be that guy,
Fall into a hole?
yeah, then I'll block you. And I don't. What's the word? Is it the other thing you have?
Mute?
Mute. I don't mute you because when I block you, I want you to know that I blocked you.
But see, here's where I think you got it wrong, OP.
Okay.
When you block them, they look at that as, look what I did. I blocked them, and then they
You give 'em- you
screenshot
give 'em
it.
But that's not
yeah.
the way I look at it, and I don't care.
Oh, okay. Look
Obi
at that.
doesn't care.
And then they brag. Look what I did. I blocked this fool. I
You're
mean,
in
he
this
blocked
dome.
me. And,
But
Elon says it's gone, right? Block is going away?
I don't think it's 100% yet. I think it's in the discussion stages. Is it not?
I remember when it was Twitter. Now it's not. All right, Jared, we'll check in with you because I know you got some other updates on some sports to get into. We got to hit a break. There was a soccer game, unfortunate ending in that one, so we'll talk about that and some other things. Right now, Obi, I've been promising, I think for 2 years, to take you to lunch to a place. Now, I don't know if you know the name of the place, but it's a place that does really good barbecue and the food's amazing. That name would be
Fargo's.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you would go far for
Yeah,
Fargo's.
I would go far. I'd go far for Fargo's. Heck yeah. But fortunately, I don't have to go far for Fargo's. It's just in Bryan.
Just a little commute.
Yeah.
Now, right now, going anywhere in town is
It
far.
takes a little while,
Yeah, because everybody thinks that they should drive with their parents are bringing 2 cars to town.
and you can't take a left-hand turn
Oh,
because
no,
we
no,
got all the medians now.
No,
Which
you
makes
can't make a
sense.
left-hand turn.
But
no.
you know what makes plenty of sense is going to Fargo's if you're hungry, especially on a Tuesday, because then you can get rib tips.
They have rib tips on Tuesday?
They have rib tips on Tuesday and Saturday.
So hold on. If I go Tuesday and I can't wait till the next Tuesday, I can go Saturday.
Yeah.
It's probably better to go Saturday, Tuesday because there's not that much time
you don't
in
have
between.
that much time in between.
Love
But
rib
of course, you gotta order before you get there because when they're gone, they're gone.
They're gone. Yeah, I'm just gonna throw a random day out at you because I'm looking for a day that serves macaroni and cheese. Is there a
that
day
would
that
be
does
Thursday.
that? Is that right?
Yeah, you can get both of them.
Huh.
Macaroni and cheese.
And the cheese.
Yeah.
Is that it, or do you get other things? With
Oh
it?
no! They'll throw in some red potatoes. Probably you can get a big old fat
Juicy.
pork chop.
Give me what you want for a pork
You
chop,
know.
buddy.
Yeah, you can get all kinds of things at Fargo's.
1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan, without a doubt, the best barbecue in town. That's their trademark because
It's true.
it's Fargo's.
You know,
I do.
after all the news and hype about Hurricane Hillary, I thought there was going to be some oceanfront property in Arizona. But it was a little bit overhyped.
A little overhyped.
Yeah.
I always know when
You know they
there's-
had a big earthquake
I did.
yesterday.
Yeah, my buddy Juan lives there, and he was tweeting about earthquakes and hurricanes all happening at the same time. And
Man.
hey, it's TexAgs Radio. Again, I don't think you knew that, but it's just we're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. By the way, Rollo Insurance is the official insurance provider of TexAgs Radio. The difference is real. Their headquarters is on Highway 6 right here in College Station. You can call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com.
You know what I like about Jason Rollo? His father-in-law is a football coach.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I like about him? Very nice guy.
He is a nice guy.
He's a really his son Jackson, not so nice. Kidding, Jackson. I know you're listening.
You know what I
They're
like
both
about
great.
Jackson is his grandfather
Is a
is a
football coach.
football coach.
I love the Rollos. By the way, it's the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, I feel like a NASCAR car right now. Let's do another sponsor. It's 23 and 23 presented by the Charge Apparel. Aggie owned and operated Premier Polos tees made in the USA. 12% of total sales are donated to organizations supporting veterans and mental health initiatives. You can visit them at thechargeapparel.com or find them on Instagram or on Twitter, better known as X. Number 5 on the list is
Damani Richardson.
it will be really hard to find a player with more experience than Damani Richardson. That guy has played a lot of football. Getting him back is so key. But my question about that, OB, is he who he is, or can he be better?
Well, I think he is who he is.
But he can be better.
But he can do better. But I'd take who he is. I mean, you know what? Damani is a playmaker. He's he's very steady. but he makes plays too.
Yeah.
I can remember he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. You know, he's a good football player, but he makes plays. You know, we all remember last year. He's in the right place at the right time. He's very heady, very smart guy.
You could point to actual plays that have affected games that, like big games, not just little games, big games.
Well, we all remember the Arkansas game.
Who can't?
And Tyreek Chappelle with the fumble, and Rocket Sanders runs him down, right? But Damani saw all this starting to happen, and he circles up behind Tyreek and really takes the ball away from him and turns into an 80-yard touchdown run. Well,
Changed that entire game.
LSU, Edgerrin Cooper forces the fumble by Jaden Daniels, and who's right there to pick it up and score a touchdown? Damani Richardson.
Damani Richardson.
But go beyond that.
LSU? Oh, you said LSU. Alabama, right?
Well, I'm thinking about Alabama 2 years ago, right?
In the end zone.
He's got it. I'm going to throw that I can recall. He's had 3 interceptions. There may be more, but I can recall 3. There's 4. I remember one against Auburn. He had one in the end zone against Alabama off of Bryce Young. Big interception.
Huge, right?
Had one in the end zone against Tua
Tagovailoa.
Tua Tagovailoa. You know what he had one last year against Auburn. You know when the other one was?
Where's the other one?
It was in 2020 against Vanderbilt.
In the first game.
And you say, big deals against Vanderbilt. You know what? That was a 17-12 game. His interception was on the 7-yard line. And also in that game, in the fourth quarter, when Vanderbilt was threatening to take the lead, he hit a receiver on a passing play, knocked the ball into the air. You know, he created the contact that dislodged the ball from the receiver. And you'll remember Leon O'Neal intercepted it.
That's right.
So he forced that. He makes – and then there's the one he didn't ever get credit for making. And you know what I'm talking about.
The LSU game.
LSU. He actually stole the ball, should have nailed down that
Game
win
over.
if the officials were competent.
Knack for big plays.
That's so huge. Smart guy, good player, good tackler. He's had 60-plus tackles in 3 of the last 4 years, and the 1 year he didn't was 2020 when he was hurt.
We had Jacoby Matthews in studio. I forget if it was Thursday or Friday. I think it was Friday. And it was a great interview. I enjoyed talking to him. But he talked about Damani. He's like, nah, Damani's one of the leaders out there.
No doubt.
We know he's a leader because of being there. And he'll say, nah, not today. We're going to work. Like, Damani will out loud tell those guys, it's time to get to work.
Well, Damani could have tried his luck in the NFL draft, decided to come back. I thought it was a really smart move to even enhance his draft stock. But beyond that, I'm sure he's going to tell guys, I didn't come back for you guys to mess around and not take this last season for me seriously.
Yeah.
You know, I think he's probably a man on a mission.
One of the things that I think isn't talked about enough, too, is his durability. That guy comes to work. Like, not just because he comes to work. He's out there playing games.
Yeah, there was, like I said, the 2020 season, he had some issues, but beyond that, he's been so reliable. I don't want to call him durable because he's the guy that's usually dealing out the pain,
right.
You know, that makes other guys prove they're durable. But you know, he's so consistent. He's so reliable. He's such a good football player. Love his attitude, and again, that knack for big plays. Maybe you wish he could get more interceptions. Of course you wish he could get more interceptions. But beyond that, I really can't think of anything you would look at Damani and say, that guy doesn't get it done.
No, he absolutely gets it done. And look, when he decided to come back, I think it puts the other young players on notice like, hey, this is how we do things at Texas A&M. We're not going to leave things unfinished. We're going to come back and go to work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just one more thing to like about him. And like I said, I think he's a man on a mission, and I think the other guys on the team will respect him because of what he's accomplished and what he continues to do. Just ask you this: what would last year have been without Damani Richardson?
It was already pretty tough. So, but
It would have
again,
been a disaster
he's
without
responsible for at least a victory.
And maybe a second one.
And maybe a second
and
one.
then what in some of those other games you won, what if Damani just wasn't out there making the plays that he makes?
Yeah. let's hit a break here. We'll come back with more. I want to ask a question to everybody out there, SEC teams out there, all right? So you can text us, by the way, 979-693-1150. I want you guys to think about teams that you would believe at the end of 2023, that's a 10-win team, but you would also believe, nah, they're a 7-win team. Who are the teams out there that fit the criteria of both? You could believe a 10-win team, but you could absolutely believe them being a 7-win team. Let's talk about the Association of Former Students. They've got tailgate opportunities in Aggie Park. So the first game of the football season is right around the corner, and if you're looking for a great spot to tailgate this season before each game, reach out to our good friends there at the Association of Former Students, who are excited to announce a new partnership with Revel XP to make available additional tailgating space there at Aggie Park for the 2023 football season. The Aggie Spirit Lawn offers more than 60,000 square feet for tailgating, with packages starting at a few $100s for a preset space with coverings and chairs. Catering and other options are also available to add, and you're welcome to bring in your own food and drinks to the tailgate. The lawn is situated at Aggie Park, steps away from Kyle Field, the Clayton Williams Jr. Alumni Center, and the Moore Family Creamery. Not only is it close to all the action, but also the park provides amenities to all for who enjoy walking, paths, restrooms, Wi-Fi, and much, much more. If you're interested in learning more about tailgating opportunities or ready to book a spot, visit tx.ag/Aggie Spirit Lawn. It's the Association of Former Students. All right, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Olin Buchanan.
Yes.
Usually I call you OB, but we'll just go with Olin Buchanan today. How many teams, not how many teams, but how many teams could be part of the question? Which teams, if I threw out a team at you, I say, all right, let's go Alabama. Would you believe? I could believe they'll be a 10-win team, and I could also believe they'd be a 7-win team. You know, so the biggest, like, wow, they could really be a New Year's Six team, or wow, they're barely getting into a nice bowl game. Let's kind of go through some teams out there, and I'm going to throw you the first one, and you tell me if you agree. I don't know if I believe Arkansas could be a 10-win team, but I believe they could be a 9-ish win team, which means they're on the fringe of 10, right? But I absolutely could believe them being a 7 or 6-win team. They are a team that I see potential to be New Year's Six fringe because of their quarterback play, but I also definitely see them being 7-win-ish team. You know, and that's probably more what I'd hit if I had to choose a number. I'd probably be closer to 7 than I would 10.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't see Arkansas as a 10-win team. I can see but I definitely could see them as a 7-win team. I think they're going to win 8 or 9. And I do like KJ Jefferson. I think he's the best quarterback in the conference. I do like Rocket Sanders. I think he's one of the top 3 running backs in the conference. I'm going to ask Arkansas fans, all right, tell me who's the make a difference receiver. Yeah, I know Bo Limmer is going to move to center. He's going to make them great. Yeah, you know, you had him last year playing guard and Ricky Stromberg. I just don't think you're a better offensive line without Stromberg. And by the way, your defense is awful. Why is it going to be better without Drew Sanders and Bumper Pool?
Right.
And Miles Slusher? I don't know. I don't see how you're better. You'd have to convince me. So I look at Arkansas, and I respect Sam. I respect him a lot, Coach Sam.
I like him.
I keep calling Coach Sam because we're on a first-name basis, and because for right now, for whatever reason, I can't think of his last name.
Pittman.
You
didn't have to tell us that. Just Coach
yeah,
Sam.
you know, I'll tell the truth. But anyway, but I respect him, and boy, he made them better just by being competent. You know, and he's beyond competent, but just by being competent, he's made them better. But I just don't see him being a 10-win team.
The next two that I'll
Sorry,
give you.
Wally.
The next two I'll give you, I think, are absolutely the epitome of this question. All right? When I think of Kentucky, I see a world they can win 10 games. I think they have one of the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the conference. I want to see what he does in the SEC, but I have a lot of respect for Devin Leary. All right? I have a lot of respect for their defense. I have a lot of respect for their running game. They're a team that I could easily see finishing second in the SEC East. But because they have those offensive line issues that showed up last year. Because of that, by the way, they have a great receiving core too. Let me just throw that out there. But because of their offensive line issues and because they were poor last year, there's absolutely a world where I could see them winning 7 games. Do you see that with Kentucky?
I don't see them winning 10 games. I'll tell you why. They play Georgia and they play Alabama. That means that you would have If you lose those two, that means you
only have one more left.
Yeah, you can't make
can't.
a trip. You can't have a bad outing, right? And I think they're going to be a lot better than last year, but I don't think they're going to be so much better that beyond those two games they're going to win the table. They're going to run the table. But I think they're better in 7 wins, and I do think they're going to finish second in the East.
Here's one that I think you have a lot of respect for. And I didn't as much, but the more I'm reading, the more I'm like, maybe I'm wrong about them. Mississippi State,
yeah.
right? They won 9 games last
They won
year.
9 games last year.
Right? And they got a lot of players coming back.
I think they're the most experienced returning team in the SEC.
More than A&M?
I think so.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that, but if not, then they're second. And, you start with, look, we know that regrettably Coach Leach passed away. And that's a reason, him not being there, to have some doubts. But Will Rogers has been there forever. They always find good receivers. They got decent running backs.
They make receivers names, right?
They do. Well, they did with Coach Leach. So let's see. But I could see them being the 10 or 7.
They're of all the teams we've said so far, they're the one that you could see the most, right? Like fitting this criteria.
Yes.
See, I think they're more 8, 7-ish,
Okay.
like in that range, than I think
They
10,
might be.
because I do put that much of a bonus point on Mike Leach, right?
Okay.
I'm also banking on them not winning the A&M game. All right, there's my gut. My gut is like their time is done beating A&M. The Mississippi schools, your run has ended. So let me throw you another
I
one.
hope so.
Gosh, I hope so. This one I don't think they're in the 10-win conversation, but because of their dominant running game, I got to bring them up. Ole Miss.
No.
Is there any world that you see they could win 10? They're 2 years removed from a 10-win season with Matt Corral quarterback. They don't win in the SEC. At least last year they didn't. And you cannot copy and paste one year to the next results, right? So that you can't do it. Hopefully you can't do it for A&M. You can't necessarily do that for Ole Miss. But I am not buying Ole Miss at all. I see a world where they win 7, and I see a world that they still win only 7.
Yeah, last year the schedule was just so perfect for them, right?
Yep.
And they beat one team with a winning record. We've talked about that. Beat a lot of 5-win teams and struggled to beat them, but they did. I think.
But again, I'm looking at this schedule.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through it with you real quick,
okay.
all right? Mercer to open
There's
up.
a win, one.
This one at Tulane.
I'm going to pick them to win because of the SEC team.
Yeah. But that would be one that you wouldn't be surprised.
Well,
right?
USC wouldn't be surprised.
Well, this is
they
true.
lost to Tulane.
Haynes King, Chase Lane.
Yeah,
Who am I thinking about? Who else am I missing?
the linebacker, Andre White.
Andre White
Yeah.
versus Ole Miss. They're September 16th.
Yeah, they're beating Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
So
I want to give my guys some love. Okay, so that's 3-0. Bama,
Lost 3-1.
LSU,
Lost 3-2.
Arkansas,
Lost 3-3.
Auburn,
I'll give them that win.
4-3. Vandy,
I'll give them that win.
A&M,
Lost.
Georgia,
Lost.
Louisiana Monroe,
Win.
6. Mississippi State
Lost.
at Mississippi State.
Lost.
They're a 6-win team in your world, right? Did I count that
6.
correct? 6 or 7.
And there may be a game in there, and I hope it's not A&M that they pull off the upset.
And I'm hoping Haynes King gets the best of them.
Me too, but I just
Talk smack.
again, not a really good defensive team. And quite frankly, A&M would have beaten them if DJ Durkin had called a better game.
Yeah. So,
Spy.
is there any other team that we have not mentioned? Because I picked the ones that I saw in that kind of conversation.
Tennessee.
You could see Tennessee winning 7
Yeah.
or 10. Okay, yeah, I think that's a good one.
Yeah. They won with the bowl game 11 wins last year. It was fun. It was for them. It was spectacular. It's not the same guys, And I hear people talk about Josh Heupel's system now.
Yep.
And I've said it before. What was A&M? They had the same system, but when the really good players were gone, did it look the same?
No, it didn't run the same, yeah.
I remember Bronco Mendenhall
Oh, yeah.
When he was the coach at BYU, they either led the nation or close to leading the nation in sacks one year. And all those guys left, and he said, it's okay. It doesn't matter. We've got a plan. We have a system. And the next year, they had like half as many sacks. That's probably not true, but their totals went down dramatically. It's not the system. It's the players that run the system. Now, if you have good players and a good system, then you got something special. But this, we say it all the time. The good players make a good system.
So again, this question is more like, would you be shocked at the end of the year if so-and-so team won 10 or so-and-so team won 7? And Tennessee, I think, is one of those that fits it. I think they're closer to the 9-ish than the 7, but absolutely. Since we are on TexAgs Radio, I got to ask you, does A&M fit that criteria?
Absolutely. A&M.
Some people have them winning, 7.5?
Yeah, I think, isn't the Vegas thing, the over-under like at 7.5?
Yeah.
Or maybe even 7. So that is absolutely a possibility. But I think it's absolutely a possibility that they win 10 or more. Again, how many times have we said it maybe we said it just to make ourselves feel better over the last 6 months, but one more touchdown a game and you're 10-2 last year. With all the injuries, with the erratic quarterback play, with all the true freshmen playing, one more touchdown with the flu, with the sleeves, with the parties, with the stuff going on in the locker room in South Carolina, all that things, still one touchdown a game, and you're 10-2.
Well, follow me on this, because that line right there, I think I started saying it, by the way, I agree with. But you could say that about any other team, right? If Alabama scored another touchdown. The difference is, I'm sorry, I'm putting my finger out there like I'm in control.
That's all right.
The difference is A&M was so bad offensively. What we're asking for is not groundbreaking. Bama's already a 30-point-a-game team. We're talking about a team that just scored 22 to score another score, right? And you're still, another touchdown doesn't even put you at the 30 mark yet.
Right. So, and plus Alabama wasn't playing a ton of freshmen, even starting a ton of freshmen like A&M was. So, that contributes to that. But, I could see A&M being a 10-win team. However, because of A&M lately seeming to find at least one game that they lose, and they have to go to Ole Miss, where they haven't had a lot of success. Success against Mississippi State's always been kind of hit and miss as well. You got Alabama, you got LSU, and you got to go over there and play LSU. Yeah, you could see it being a 7-win team too. I don't think that's what it's going to be, but because of all those things, I can.
It really boils down in that scenario the Mississippi schools, right?
I think a big part of that is, you look at the Arkansas games, and you've won 10 out of 11, but I think maybe 2 of those you won comfortably.
And that's a game that I wouldn't be surprised either way. Today, as we sit here, I wouldn't be surprised if A&M takes it to them, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's like the series has gone the last few years.
Yeah, Arkansas is a proud program. They've got a good coach. I think A&M has better talent.
Yeah, we got a bunch of text messages to get into when we come back here. So if we left a team off the list, or if you disagree with the way we kind of came up with it, let us know. 979-693-1150. Hello to our friends on the CW. Hey, guys, you in particular. Hello to our friends at YouTube. You want to say hi to the folks at the Zone?
Hey, Zoners.
I don't know why they found that funny. That was good. All right, let's hit a break here. Does your knee pain keep getting worse? Well, how about that pain in your shoulder, your hip, or your back? Don't let them tell you that steroids are your only option, or how about surgery? No. Now, there's other options, guys. There's a really good one called QC Kinetics. The good friends there at QC Kinetics make that pain go away with this all-natural advanced regenerative medicine treatment out there. They're helping people here every day with these amazing treatments that restore and repair that damaged joint tissue. It's like turning back the clock, and it feels so good. Regenerative medicine uses concentrating healing agents from your own body that stimulate that damaged tissue in your joints so they can work like they're supposed to, and there is zero downtime. That's the best part of it. You can go out there and start doing great stuff immediately. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting medical breakthrough. Patients here are getting real lasting relief and are saying no to surgery and no to drugs, just like Nancy Reagan. If you got pain in your back, your hips, wherever it may be, or whenever I pause talking, this is a remarkable option that you need to check out. And the consultation is completely free. Call QC Kinetics. The phone number, 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That's 979-452-6000. It's a good song, OB.
It is. You know who that is?
Fernando Palomo.
No.
Who is it?
Bocephus. You know who Bocephus is? It's
Uh,
Hank Williams Jr.
Oh, Hank, I was actually going to guess that, but I was like, I don't want to be totally wrong.
Who looks a lot like Kendall Rogers. Or maybe Kendall Rogers looks like
Kendall.
like him.
I mentioned Fernando Palomo because I just got a text from him.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
in town, so I'm going to try to get him to
great.
come by
From
studio.
Miami?
He said he'll be there for it.
Is he going to let us stay at his house in Miami?
He lives in Connecticut.
Or is that Federico? I'm sorry. See,
Federico,
there's so many of
yeah.
those Palomo brothers. I get them mixed up.
Yeah, we're trying to get Fernando to come by and chit-chat with us a little bit. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Due. A couple things. I want to remind you guys, tailgating is starting up here at TexAgs again. Starts 3 hours before kickoff and ends 30 minutes before. So basically for this New Mexico game, 3 to 5:30. Free drinks and food will be able to, you can buy food, from Costa Vida, but free drinks definitely. And Bronny crafted a beautiful playlist for the good vibes, according to Kennedy Cavan. That's on the copy that I was given.
Who gave him that job? Why does he get that job?
I knew you would be
believe
upset about that.
No. I believe in Bronny. I have no worries that it's going to be a good playlist. But why is he the one that got it? No one else gets a say.
So maybe you get week 2, buddy. Maybe you get week 3.
I
Sure.
drove with him all the way to Omaha, listening to his music, and I would say that that it's a risk letting.
Worse than riding with me?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's a risk.
Oh, I am Mr. Country Music now. I've made the
David,
switch.
I don't know how many times you have to say this. You're not Mr. Country Music.
I am. No, that's actually, it follows me around. Like people say, hey, it's Mr. Country Music when they see me.
No, they don't, David.
How do you know that? You're not around
Okay,
me.
text in the text line if any of you guys would call David
I
Mr.
guarantee
Country
you.
Music.
I guarantee you.
I would
there's-
call David Mr. Country
But
Music.
what country are we discussing?
Yeah,
here?
we're talking like country.
Cuba?
Yeah. I'm like the Olympics. Okay, I didn't mean like Hank Williams. But also, can you people help us out? You did such a great job on Friday becoming subscribers to our YouTube page. We picked up a bunch on Friday, OB.
Yeah.
We're so close to
We're
10,000.
like 150 away, and there's 75,000 students at Texas A&M now.
50% of our listeners on YouTube or viewers, whatever you want to call it, are not subscribers. Subscribe, people. Tell your uncle.
Do it for me. Do it for me.
You did say at the break you would do a shirtless one-handed push-up if people did it today.
I didn't say shirtless.
I think you did.
I said no one wants to see me shirtless. I even said that I wear a blindfold in the shower because it's such a heinous image.
Do you think you doing a shirtless one-handed push-up on this desk would get us some subscribers, or would we lose subscribers?
Probably lose.
So-
And I think I'm going to be the first to unsubscribe.
I'm out.
My wife. I have to see enough of that garbage at home.
Well, hopefully you all can at least
Please do it for me.
Yeah, just subscribe. A couple things I want to do this. We've got to pay off our text messages that have been coming in. We got to do that. But I got Jared. You have an update from the soccer game from yesterday, correct?
Yes. So yesterday, A&M took on Washington State, and we dropped that game 3-2. Looks promising a little bit at the end, but we're just not able to end up coming through with it.
So I was there. I'm doing the color for the team, and with Casey Atnett, by the way. And one of the things that I've noticed with this team is, and this happened a lot the last couple of years, against these non-conference games, they just don't finish the game. And I'm not saying an effort thing. It's the other team finds the winning plays at the end so far. I thought A&M, again, this is the unfortunate part. That's 2 games in a row that I think they've been the better team for most of the game, not all the game. A couple of unfortunate goals, a PK, and then just a ball bounced the wrong way led to an open goal or open shot for one of the Washington State players. So hopefully they figure it out. They've got a big game against Baylor. It's at the Fish Camp game on Saturday. So
Well, maybe they'll figure it out against Baylor.
I think they will. Jared, I know you got some text messages for us.
Yeah, we got a couple funny ones. Joe said that you're Mr. Bad Bunny.
Bad
And then
Bunny.
Ross from East Texas says Señor Música Nacional. And then we got
Say that again. Hold on. I want to hear your Spanish again.
Señor Música Nacional. And then we got Nuño is Mr. Ay que rico.
Ay, que rico. That's Billy Liucci's favorite thing that I say on the air. That and my good friend Jocko Willick.
Yeah. I don't
Thanks
know
for laughing. You don't even know who Jocko is.
Nah, I didn't. But
Nah.
also another I guess negative news: A&M volleyball opened the season and dropped their opener against Baylor. But yeah, unfortunate.
He said that like a funeral.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, we don't want us losing, do we?
No, I don't.
No.
No, I don't want us losing. I don't want you to say it happy either. I used to work with this lady. I won't say her name, but she reported everything happy.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
everything. So we're at a drug scene or a murder here. Like that's how she would report. Like everything was happy. I was like, dude, people just got shot.
Well, to me, yeah, you wouldn't unless I didn't like the person who got murdered. Then I might be.
We gotta hit a break. Thank you, OB.
You bet.
See you in a bit. All right, I'm assuming the music was playing light for 20 minutes. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. So Fernando Palomo's stopping by from ESPN a little bit later, so I ran just to let the staff know, to let the dude in. I'm sorry. I'm here for the people. I'm such a guy for the people. I go to the hotline right now because our dude Tom Hart's been waiting for a minute. Tom, good morning. How are you?
Where you been? What was happening?
So I went upstairs
Yeah.
to tell our owners that Fernando Palomo's coming by. So, because he's a big deal. He's a big ESPN guy.
I thought maybe you had to put another quarter in the parking meter or something.
Well, recently it feels like I have to go pay for parking because the students are back. All of our parking's gone, and there's construction across the street at the practice facility. There's been very limited parking recently, Tom.
The problems of the wealthy. I tell you what, if you just have somebody valet for you like Liucci does, then it would be less of an issue.
Liucci's gets a spot that says Liucci in big letters, and you're not allowed to park there unless you're Billy.
By the way,
Liucci.
he's now a big movie star. I finally got around to watching the Menzel doc, and I told him, I said the highlight wasn't just seeing Liucci in present day; it was seeing old school Liucci.
Right.
The sit down interview with Sumlin in the middle of these press conferences. I laughed really hard when I saw him.
You had young Liucci, young Gabe, and young Olin all in the same video.
So beautiful.
You know what's interesting? People are like, you know that guy? Like now since Netflix, right? Netflix happens, people are like, you know Billy? I was like, dude, I've known Billy for like 25 years. Yes, I know Billy.
It's a really silly question because everybody knows Billy. But yeah, I can see Netflix is now reaching a wider audience. I love the show, man. It was a fun retrospective. I love seeing the highlights. I'm sorry, they're doing some yard work. I'm going to move. It's probably too loud where I am right now.
I don't hear a thing.
You good? You can't hear it?
I don't hear anything, yeah.
All right. Well, let's go for a walk anyway.
I love your patio. Did we lose Tom? Wow. Internet, he goes in the house, and we lose Tom Hart. That's all right. We'll get him back here in a minute. You know
Am
what?
I gone?
No, you were gone for a moment. I was a little worried.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
All good.
Well, apparently the internet can't keep up with my speed. I'm just too fast for the Wi-Fi. That's how quickly I was moving. No, I love the retrospective. I love seeing Johnny play football. I love hearing him tell his story. I thought there's some really in-depth answers that he gave that deserved more, investigation, more questions, more thoughtfulness from the producers. I just wanted to see more. Like I wanted to see another 3 episodes. I wanted to see more of the playing. I wanted to see that Duke game, the Peach Bowl that we talked about. I wanted to hear from teammates. I wanted to see more of the NFL stuff. I wanted to hear more of the fallout from friends that he left behind once he went to prepare for the combine. But it was a fascinating hour 20, whatever it ended up being.
Something tells me it's not the last Johnny Manziel documentary that we see, and there'll be a different one in 4 or 5 years. It'll be a little bit longer, and it'll go into some of that stuff. I feel like when it's that good, there's more out there.
Yeah. Well, and there's an audience for it. I mean, I had forgotten just how big of a celebrity he was in the moment, right? Because I've seen him since in College Station and at games and hung out with him just a little bit with Liucci. And he's not treated like a superstar, like a normal dude walking through Southgate or wherever. But thinking back to that time and what a meteoric rise it was, a combination of so many different things, I don't know that it can be replicated,
Yeah. Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs Radio. All right, Tom, we actually got games this weekend, finally. So my question, are you interested in the game in Dublin? I mean, like, to me, I think I'd watch that game anyway, but it's the first game that we get to see.
What time are they kicking off?
I think it's a 1:30 game. I might be wrong about the first game, but I think it is one of the first games we see.
I think it's the best game on the schedule for week 0. With by the way, going forward, my prediction, and I don't think I'm going out on a limb here, is week 0 is no longer going to look like week 0, especially with USC and UCLA going to the Pac-12 and with Oregon and Washington. Like, they're going to have to build in more bye weeks because of travel. And I think they'll get some exceptions to play week 0 games. Historically, it's been you have to get an exception, or if you're playing Hawaii, you get an extra week because of travel. Playing Hawaii anytime during the course of the season. But I think we're going to stretch this college football season out. This Notre Dame and Navy is a highlight. I want to see what Vanderbilt looks like. They destroyed Hawaii last year on the road. With Mike Wright playing quarterback. He ran all over them. It was they changed quarterbacks later. They didn't look like the same team. But I'm just excited to have football back.
Yeah, I am too. There is, I wouldn't say as much interest, but I am interested in USC and San Jose State. Because, you got your Heisman Trophy winner who a lot of people think is going to win his second one. I want to see if that defense has gotten any better, because that was their Achilles heel last year. They picked up some guys in the transfer portal. I'm interested in that one too.
Yeah, I'm naturally curious about USC. I mean, to me, it's going to sound weird, but USC and Oklahoma will always go hand in hand. I mean, what they took from Oklahoma, head coach, quarterback, just and this, I don't know if it's too much to say, but like this, it's like they robbed them of their ego overnight when everybody left for Tinseltown. And I think Oklahoma can get back there. I think they're going to have a much better year this year. But as long as Lincoln Riley's at USC, and especially with Caleb Williams there, I'm going to view USC and Oklahoma like on parallel tracks. What one does seems to impact how we think about the other, or how I think about the other. But that's the day and age we live in the transfer portal. I mean, Auburn's starting Peyton Thorne at quarterback week 1. They basically stole him from Michigan State. He set the passing record at Michigan State a couple of years ago, breaking Kirk Cousins' record, a 2-year starter. And I don't know for sure. I don't know if he was going to be the starter or not this year. He got good competition in the spring, but he's like, yo, I'm out. And he bounces to Auburn, and he's their starting quarterback. And so I think that a lot of fans are going to look. It's kind of like when your favorite player or anybody gets traded or leaves via free agency in the NFL. Now it's like, all right, well, that used to be our guy. Now I'm curious what he's doing in that new stop.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to ask you about A&M, because at some point we think in the next few days or next week we'll find out who the starting quarterback is, and I think we all have our opinions who that'll probably be. That all being said, the players on the team, they're not waiting for an announcement. I think they know, you just see it. Am I right about that? The players just know by the way the reps are going and the way the quarterbacks are leading the way. It's not like it's a TBD for them.
You bring up a good point. My one counter to that is, and by the way, A&M's not the only place going through it. I think Alabama going through the same thing. I'll have them week 1. So, that's a conversation for Nick Saban on our production meeting, is how much of it is tied to, and every head coach I think is asking this question, how much of it is tied to performance and how much of it is tied to leadership? And are they always intertwined? Because players know who performs best in scrimmages, in practices, wide receivers know who they like getting the ball from, running backs know who gives them the best look, all of that stuff. But there are sometimes surprises. There are sometimes clicks in the locker room that don't carry as much weight with the coaching staff, and they go a different direction. I kind of think that Kirby caught a lot of grief a few years ago when he was trying to figure out what he was doing at quarterback, and they end up with Fromm, and Justin Fields ends up bolting and being immensely talented and showing that off. There's no doubt in my mind that there are guys in that Georgia locker room who thought that Jake Fromm shouldn't have been the starter, and that liked playing with the other guy better. But sometimes coaches make a decision that goes against the locker room. It doesn't happen very often, And it probably doesn't happen against a majority of the locker room, but I think that's where all the anxiety comes from.
Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, let's talk about these new quarterbacks in the conference, because you mentioned Peyton Thorne. But there's a lot of guys coming from different places. You got a couple Big Ten quarterbacks that are in the league. You've got Graham Mertz out there. You got Peyton Thorne. You also have Devin Leary. Kind of break down your thoughts on these guys and how they will get acclimated to the SEC.
Well, no transfer quarterback is the same because they're not stepping into the same situation, right? It's not a vacuum. If all of these guys ended up on the same roster, then we tried to compare A to B to C, that'd be one thing. But Graham Mertz is stepping into a situation, talking with people down in Gainesville, where the roster from a talent standpoint just isn't where it needs to be. And he probably gives them a stabilizing force and a more consistency, and that's going to be necessary for them. Devin Leary goes into Kentucky with a young trio at wide receiver that are maybe the most underrated in the league. And I think they'll get a chance to come into their own this year. They had some growing pains last year. Their offensive line at Kentucky wasn't very good. And the play calling was suspect. Now, it's easy to hold a coordinator accountable when the offensive line stinks. And they were terrible. So they've got to get better at O-line, but they bring Liam Cohen back. They had him 2 years ago. He had yo-yoed between Kentucky and the Rams. And I think that's going to be a better offense just overnight with all of those pieces. And so in my mind, Devin Leary has the chance to be the transfer quarterback that makes the most noise, especially early on. I mean, they've got some games where he can put up some big numbers. I think people are going to look at that and go, wow, that was the signing of the offseason. The question becomes, is the O-line good enough? Are the wide receivers proven enough? We know they have very high ceilings, proven enough to win the big games. Non-conference games are one thing. Can they knock off Georgia? Do they have the firepower to do that? And then I think he'll prove that indeed he was the best signing of all these transfer quarterbacks in the offseason.
Tom, I think that's an excellent point, and that's why earlier in the show we had this topic on teams that at the end of the year I'd believe, yeah, that's a 10-win team, but I also would believe they're a 7-win team, right? If you told me that at the end of the year, I think Kentucky fits that bill because of some of the talent that they have, the quarterback situation, the high end of being 10, but also because that offensive line, I could also believe 7.
Well, here's my comparison for the day. You ever play golf when it's really hot out and you're having a bad round? Like, it's 100 degrees, you're tired, you're sweaty, and you're doing okay. Then you play poorly. And then your last 4 holes, you're like, I don't care. Let's just end it. Like, get me in there to get me a cold beer or whatever, or get me back in the air conditioning so I can go home. That happens in college football, especially teams that had high expectations and they don't deliver. They lose a couple of games. The last third of the season, let's just play it out. Let's just finish this thing. And there's a lot of different examples where you could point to and say, I think that's what happened with this team. I think that's what happened with that team. But let's go back to Jim McElwain's final season at Florida. They gave up. They had a game at Missouri in early November. It was cold. It was an early kick. Weren't a lot of people there. And talking to guys in the team the next year, they said, yeah, we quit. We're just done. We knew our coach was gone. We mailed it in that day. We mailed it in the rest of the season. And I bring that up because it happens more often than we want to think, number one. And number two is if you can sustain, you don't have to be elite, but if you can just sustain, there are wins available in the back third of the schedule that just come from attrition. Not every week and not every team, but we'll see. There'll be some teams that are average to poor that just mail it in on the back end. And we've seen that with our own eyes, even though you can't pinpoint it until somebody admits it. And it's usually well after the fact that they do. But it's a long season, man, and it can be mentally draining on everybody within a program.
Tom, is there another team beyond Kentucky that you see that fits that criteria of, at the end of the year, I could see them winning 7. I could absolutely see them winning 10. Is there another one out there? I feel like that's life in the SEC for the most part, but maybe this year in particular.
The margins are so thin, right? I mean, the margins are so thin between winning and losing in any game, and then the momentum. It'd be really hard. Well, I think you could pick a bunch of teams in the West and say, okay, either 7 or 10. Because that division is so loaded. Like if Auburn's got great running backs, they're due for a bounce back year. Peyton Thorne is as good as possible, then they could be a 10-win team. I could say the same about Ole Miss. Either one of those could fall back and be a 7-win team. I mean, I think those are two most obvious. KJ Jefferson stays healthy. Arkansas could put up some big numbers. I mean, that guy is incredibly talented. If he doesn't get much support around him, they could be a 6-win team. So yeah, I think just about anybody in the West, based on the ebb and flow, and obviously anybody not named LSU at Alabama, where the stakes are so high and the expectations are so high. But the ebb and flow of a given season and the role that health plays into it, there's a lot of different teams on that side. South Carolina would be one more. They lost a lot, especially on the defensive end, but I'm a believer in Shane Beamer. I'm a believer in Spencer Rattler based on how he ended last season. And now they got a new offensive coordinator in that's going to simplify things, make them more like they were at the end of the year versus what Marcus Satterfield had him trying to do for the first half of the season.
South Carolina is one that I believe in their potential, but I look at their schedule. I'm like, man, they got so many tough games to open up the year. I think they could have 3 losses to start, and then it becomes, do they become that example you gave earlier, or like, I don't even know if it's worth it this year, right? Like how they weather the Georgia game early on. I think Georgia, Tennessee, they have a very tough September. How they weather through that will determine the rest of their year.
I think they're due to get off to a better start in the sense that, and we talked about this in our production meetings with South Carolina last year. Spencer Rattler was running an offense that he had never run before, and there was a lot on his plate. I mean, he looked like me the morning of the ACT. Like every Friday we talked to him, it was like, I don't know what this math section is going to give me fits. And then they were able to realize, like, hey man, we need to make our quarterback more comfortable, and they got to that point. That's what makes this league so fascinating. I mean, college football as a whole, yes, but the SEC specifically is that there's so much talent here. And a lot of that talent, like the Auburn situation, they steal Michigan State's quarterback, has come from elsewhere and only made the league better. The fine line between having a season where you puff your chest out and you crow about it and you go, man, we're building something really great, versus, hey, we just survived and I don't know how many guys we're going to have for the bowl game, but let's get back in that transfer portal. Whew. That is every coaching staff out there is riding that ridge, and they ride it all season long.
Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. So Carson Beck officially named the starter this weekend. A lot of hype around him. I get it. I mean, he was Mr. Football, right? Like there's a lot of reasons to buy the hype, but there are questions because he hasn't done it. The one thing I'll give Kirby was he did insert him quite a bit last year to get him those reps. What do you think about Carson Beck this year with Georgia?
Yeah, he played in 7 games last year, played in the national championship. But all those games had already been decided. He's going to spend more time in the pocket than Stetson Bennett did. I thought one of the things that constantly, I think, surprised people about Stetson Bennett was his willingness and ability to leave the pocket and to put his body on the line and to get out there. I don't think Carson Beck is going to be doing a ton of that. I think he's going to be a willing runner, but here's the thing with Georgia right now. They have a deep backfield, but they don't have yet that elite guy. Now, lucky for them, right? No Oklahoma on the schedule this year. In the non-conference, their schedule got immensely easier almost overnight. They'll have plenty of time to figure out exactly who they are. And Beck will have plenty of time to play in games where he can get his feet underneath them. Knows the offense well. He's got experience. I think Brock Vandergriff is a guy that could still do stuff for him. And Gunnar Stockton, the younger guy, is a 5-star, potential through the roof. I would say that from a talent perspective, I'm inclined to say, hey, we may see multiple guys throughout the course of the season, but Kirby really hasn't been that guy. I mean, he got Beck playing experience behind Stetson last year because it was the right thing to do and it made sense. I think he's probably going to be a 1-quarterback guy, even though I could make a case that they'd be better off by rotating a couple of those guys through, especially the youngsters, especially their redshirt freshman Gunnar Stockton.
Tom, appreciate it, man. Got to hit a break. Thank you very much. Talk to you next week.
Hi, Dave.
See you, bro.
See you, bud.
There he is. There he is, as I always say. There he is. There he is. Tom Hart. All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with some text messages. I know we had that question out there that we didn't really get to dig deep into it. A team that you would believe at the end of the year wins 7, a team that you would believe would win 10. A&M seems to fit the criteria for many. What do you think about that? We'll do that at 979-693-1150. Right now, Milliken Reserve Time, Farm to Table Community. They are in College Station. They got homes. I love homes. They have got trails. I like trails. I wouldn't say love, but I do like them. In fact, I love them when I do it, but I don't think about it all the time. They got farms. I love those as well because I am Mr. Country Music. And they got open spaces. Their mission is to build a healthy community around nature, and they've done that by treading lightly on the land. They've created a sanctuary for family, for nature, and for community, dedicated to the conservation of a healthy community. Go out there, enjoy nature, folks. Jump rope, fly a kite. What are some other things, Jared, that we can do in nature? Just walk, right? Hike.
Fishing.
I like the fishing community. Go to the meetings. They're great. 2,600 acres of open space, farms, 30 miles of trails, and homes. They connect families to nature and to each other. It's a beautiful place to go. Committed to maintaining and restoring that natural habitat where you find all the native species living out there in Milliken Reserve. They find their homes in those preserved woods, the ponds, and the creeks. You got the white-tailed deer, you got the songbirds, you got the rabbits, and you got the turtles. And homeowners there at Milliken Reserve sharing a legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation, you come home to that pristine countryside place, an enduring resource, that a place that comes together to relax and to reflect. It's a great place. Go check out the website, millikenreserve.com. Again, that website, millikenreserve.com. Go check it out. It's Milliken Reserve. And we are back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in. Let's go to the News and Social Center. Jared Schultz there to give us some of the text messages, because we've thrown out a couple topics this morning that I'd like to kind of just continue to break down. Mr. Schultz.
So David Edmond has a soccer question. His honest question: if soccer has another season where they don't make the tournament, will Coach G be on the hot seat? Although I do think that they made the tournament last year, just lost first round.
He's been very successful. Look, there's pressure in the SEC no matter where you're at, right? No matter what sport we're talking about. So sure, I understand the question. But let's see how the season plays out, because there's a lot of talent there. They've looked really good. They just haven't closed out these matches. And unfortunately, that happened a little bit last year as well. You're taking on a team that could easily win the national championship in Florida State, and another team that was in the Final Four a couple years ago. Tough way to start the season. I know it's not ideal, but they'll figure it out. What else, Jared?
Then John from San Antonio, he says, what minimum record do you think is required to maintain recruiting momentum sufficient enough to realistically compete for a playoff/national title?
Hard to answer that question for a couple reasons, right? Because NIL plays such a factor. I mean, how many games did Texas win last year, right? Yes, do I think you need to get to a certain point to, kind of quell any negative recruiting out there? Absolutely. But is there a number? I'd like to say the number 9, but that's the number that I'm looking for, right? That is the number that I want to see. But just win the games you're supposed to win. And I think they're supposed to win at least 9 games this year. That's the way I look at it. But look, with NIL being a factor, if other schools can have average years and still get top 10 recruiting classes, why not us, right? But I look beyond that. I look to the optimism. I'm looking to see a much better season. And I'm ready to see this team, break through, to see what that does for our recruiting. Have multiple 2020 seasons in a row. Multiple, right? Where you have 2-3 years in a row of 10-win seasons. Because now you're not like, is the reverse factor, right? We've seen too much of, you have a really good year, then a couple of down years. No. It needs to be, the down year needs to be like, it'd be great to have the down year being the 9-win season. That's what I want this program to get to. That's why they have spent the money that they have across the street, to be that level of program. Jared?
I have a question for you. So A&M has a decently tough road schedule this year, I'd say, and you get to go to all of them. So I got a question for you. Which road game are you the most excited for? That can be for A&M's sake or just the town's sake or anything like that.
I think I'm going to answer this like from a football perspective, not from a nightlife, even though I don't partake in nightlife. But
David, you love the nightlife, I thought.
no, but like I'm obviously very excited about the Miami game. I have family there, but that's not what I think you want from the question. I cannot wait to go to Knoxville. Like, of all the football atmospheres this year, look, there is not a known football atmosphere in Miami. There isn't. Miami's just a cool town, right? In doses. I don't know if I could do too much Miami at once, but in doses, Miami's a cool town. Knoxville's the one that I am looking at. Knoxville's the football atmosphere, the potential kind of game it's going to be. We've got a team that was a New Year's Six team last year that had a Heisman-esque quarterback who's no longer there, but Joe Milton, can he fill that role that he looked really good in the time that he did last year? Was it just because it was momentum at the end of the year? And just being there in Knoxville, like, I just think that environment to me is the best one. Is there there's a curiosity about Baton Rouge every time? It's great. It's a great college football atmosphere, but that's not the one that I'm circling on my calendar. I want Baton Rouge to matter, right? I want it to really matter. I want it to mean something for both programs. When you go to that game, does that mean whoever wins is going to a playoff, or whoever wins is going to a New Year's Six bowl? Like, I want that to matter. And of course, there's going to Oxford. There's an interest there, right? The whole rivalry, if you will, with Lane Kiffin and Jimbo. So, but of all the atmospheres, the game that I cannot wait to get to is the one in Knoxville, Neyland Stadium. That's the one I want to see because of the known atmosphere, because of Rocky Top, because I think both teams could be very highly ranked when we get to that.
Yeah, I'm also just really ready to see A&M get a win in Baton Rouge. Like, since joining the SEC, we still haven't got a win down there. So I'm really ready to see that.
Well, it's been 6. What did I read? And I should know this off the top of my head, but 6 true road games that A&M has not won. They've got to change that. They absolutely got to do that. Let's try to get one more text message before we hit a break.
Okay. Bob and Brian says, not a Kool-Aid drinker, not a naysayer. Try to be a realist. Don't think 7 and 10 is the right comparison. I believe you should be talking about 8 or 11. I'm assuming he means wins for A&M this year.
When you say should, I think the question was
11's a lot.
The question was teams that you would believe at the end of the year won 7, or teams that you would believe would win 10 at the end of the year, right? That's the question. Of course, there's a world where I could see A&M winning 11 games. There are questions around the SEC. There's also a world where I could see them not living up to expectations because, hello, we just went through it. Do I think 8 is a realistic number? Yeah, I understand all the – you could tell me a number and I could see a scenario that comes true. Well, they don't win the Mississippi games because that's happened the last couple of years. They sweep the Mississippi games. All right. Well, are we taking care of Arkansas? Are we taking care of Miami? Are we taking care of Auburn to start the year? That's why the first month of the season is so crucial. All right, we'll hit a break here. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, we might have a guest. We might have Fernando Palomo. If not, I got some questions of what's going to make you happy about this team, and it kind of goes back to the question that gentleman just asked. But right now, let's talk Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They're on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. They got amazing deals there, and they change them month to month. If you've purchased a vehicle there from a Caldwell Country Chevrolet, you know firsthand how good it is. It is it's a very good experience out there because you get great value. You get a great trade-in for your vehicle. You're going to get a great deal on your new vehicle, and you're going to have excellent customer service. That is what they're known for. And then when you become a repeat customer service, you repeat getting your car serviced from them, you're going to realize all the benefits that come with it, like the fact that they have complimentary pickup for all their delivery customers out there. They hold their staff to a very high standard when it comes to taking care of their customers. And that's why all the bigwigs in town like to buy their vehicles there. RC's bought his vehicles from there. Billy's bought his from there. There's a lot of Dante Hall has bought his vehicles from Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It is a great place to go to get your new vehicle. It is about a 15-minute drive, Brian to Caldwell, short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. All right, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. I feel bad for our next guest because he was just going to come and check out the office and chit-chat a little bit. I was like, come on, Mr. Palomo, come in studio and hang out. How are you, Fernando?
Doing great, David. Doing great. Trying to make it more of a custom, right?
Yeah, man. Well, it was great. So I had you on the show a couple weeks ago. It was fun to talk to you. But then I saw you twice at the soccer game. I saw you on Thursday against Florida State.
Yes.
And then last night, and you were moving your son in and enjoying the life out here.
I know that moving part's been done. Now they start classes, right? Now we have to head back and go back to our regular life -1.
Yeah, yeah. So football starts this week. How do you keep up? Because you're so busy with all the games that you're broadcasting. You were telling me, I think yesterday you were doing the Barcelona game, right? And you're doing it remotely. So and you're in town, but you're doing that. And you're going down the road for it. How do you keep up with college football as that's going on?
Well, there's a secret never been told, right? The Palomos are 3, and then there's a network around us, right? So there's a chat called Junction Boys.
Okay.
And that's where I have a couple of my friends, my brothers, and a couple of their friends, and they just keep me up to date. I'm I guess the least participant of them all. Like I'm least active of them all. I sent them a picture of in Jimbo We Trust the other day, a couple of days back, that I saw in the store, and that's I guess the extent of my chatting over the last year. But I do read them over there. I do try to keep up with the signings, the way the depth chart's gonna work.
Yeah.
So that's my ground to Aggie football.
Do you keep it on like, I don't know, mute or whatever, so it doesn't buzz all
Oh, yeah.
day long?
Oh, it's on mute. It's
Yeah,
on
it's
mute.
gotta
If I
be, right?
stop checking it, they'll probably have about 45 messages every morning,
Yeah.
right? And some same number in the afternoon.
Yeah, sometimes, it takes too long to like go back and read it all, but at least they keep you updated. So from the things that you've read and you've seen with your own eyes, because I know you watch a lot of the games, what do you think about Connor and Max, the quarterbacks that hopefully we'll find out here in the next few days as the QB?
Well, what I keep hearing is Connor is an extremely talented athlete. That's not a secret. That's out there, and all he needs is the confidence of a line that will protect him and give him time to throw. Although he does, from what I've seen, gets the ball out there quicker than most quarterbacks out there in college football nowadays. So in that regard, we have a player that can maybe take us to the next step, next level, which is a consistent offense that could wear down defenses around the league and hold possession of the ball, which I think is key in any sport.
Right.
Right. I work with soccer a lot, and that's 95% of the extent of my work. And possession is there's only one ball on the field, right? And the other team wants to have it. So the more you have it, the more you can do with it.
One of the things that was important to me when I moved, even before I moved back to College Station, but when I moved here, was I want my kids to really feel Aggie culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to do it. We were in Houston, 90 miles away. It's another thing to be here. How important is it for you, and how have you done it for your son to kind of feel what this place is about? Because you kind of have to live it to really know it.
Well, we have 3. So the oldest one just came in, and he's the one starting school today. And since we moved back to the States, I lived in Argentina and in Mexico before coming back to the U.S., but not to Texas, in Connecticut, where the home base is. We made it a point, or I made it a point, to bring the kids over that I wanted to come back at least once a year, either a track meet, which I was on the track team, or a football game. And in that regard, I guess the household in the fall kind of revolves around Aggie football. My schedule, of course, I can't control it because it's controlled by the games I called, but they're mostly in Europe, so the games are being played either noon or early afternoon. And if we have a 3 o'clock Eastern kickoff, and then my game is at 3 o'clock, I gotta be true to everyone. I'm have an eye on one monitor with the A&M game on. If it's an afternoon game, then I'm locked out. I do my game, I call my game, and then I go home and we have a watch party, which it usually it's comprised of only us,
right?
Because we're the only ones that actually understand what it is to feel the passion for this team and this university. How do we do it when we're far? I guess every human has a need to identify him or herself with something,
right,
or somebody, and I think this is our need. This is our that thing. This is our the one thing that unites us, and the one thing we identify with.
Isn't it great too? And I hate the bad moments, but being there with your family to kind of remember that the App State game. I don't want to remember that one. You remember the LSU victory, just doing it together.
Yeah, with that LSU game, I was not there with the family. I was actually traveling, working in Argentina, and I tried to keep up with it as much as I could. I could not believe that game was still going on when I was still checking it. That we still had a shot. I do remember the good games a lot. I remember the bad games and the roller coaster rides, and I remember where I stood or sat. The game that we did great, and that's where I try to go back to stand or sit to try to keep the mojo going. You know, it happened to me in the Alabama game. Luckily, I was able to get a field pass, and I was there for the first 2 quarters. And I think that we were doing great, right? Last time we beat them, right? And then third quarter, the mojo started moving around, and I was like, I gotta move.
Yeah.
And so I walk up to the stands, and I go on a seat that I had there again. And as soon as I walked up to the seat, we get that punt return for a touchdown.
Devon, yeah.
Yeah. And I just stood there for the rest of the game.
It
That was
worked out.
not my seat, but I stood there for the rest of the game. I would not move. You know, wanted water, had somebody get it for me because I was not about to move from that spot.
Isn't that like the true definition of a fan? Like, we really feel like what we do affects the outcome. We know it doesn't, but in the moment, I'll change a seat on the couch. But
You tell me it doesn't?
I think it does. But when I tell
In a
people
way
out
it
loud,
does.
it does. Yeah, exactly.
I don't wear maroon on game days, for example.
Okay.
I try not to wear maroon on game. I don't even recall if that streak has actually worked or not, but I try to avoid that from happening. I wear it on Sundays or Fridays, but I try not to do it on Saturdays. I don't know why that is.
That's what works for you.
That's I guess my contribution to the energy.
So this is, to me, fascinating. Like, what kind of schedule are you on? Because you're on European time from broadcasting, which is not American time. So do you follow like a European clock? Do you have to go to bed earlier because of so? Like, how do you roll?
I was working remotely yesterday, and I was looking around my backpack, and I was like, I had a bunch of papers there, and I was like, why did I get rid of these papers when I went home? Right? And I was looking at stuff that I had. Why do I have this charger still here in my bag? It must have been that when I went home, I didn't open my bag at all, and then just picked it up and traveled again. Well, it happened to be that I had not been home in 3 weeks. So I have not been home in 3 weeks. It just happened that I met my wife and kids, dropping my son off, and I had a clean slate of clothes.
Right.
So it feels like I did go home, but I didn't. We don't have a schedule in our profession. It's 7 days. You know, it's 7 days, and luckily the time difference allows me to kind of digest everything that happens in Europe in the morning because it's the afternoon, right? Sure. So I'm digesting everything. Then our shows are in the afternoon, so we have a little bit more time. It's not the rush of this last minute thing that has to go on air right away because it just happened.
Right.
When it happens, we still have a couple hours to go before our show goes on air to react or produce it. Now, when it comes to games, I do have to. I mean, that's living on their time, and I have to prepare myself that way. I try to keep the same schedule, though. I try to, if I'm in Europe calling a game, I try to go to the stadium about 3 hours before the game, and then to soak up the atmosphere, right? If I'm at home, I try to go to the studio 3 hours before game time if I'm calling it remotely.
Keep it consistent, right?
I'm trying to load up my radio with shows from Spain or England or wherever the game is being played, and then try to get into the booth as quickly as possible so I can watch that stadium as empty as it is when I tune the TV on. But I just want to feel that I'm there.
I hear from a lot of the college football broadcasters that their job changed with COVID because it showed the bosses we can do so much more remotely. But how often do you go to Europe to call games?
It goes about once a month, maybe. Once a month. And we try to make it whereas the schedule allows us to go to multiple games in that one visit. Like I was there last week, and we called 3 games from there. And then we call them remotely. And now, as you said, COVID just allowed us to understand that there's technology out there that we can embrace without any fear to call the games from basically or pretty much any location in the world.
Right.
I mean, I just traveled 90 miles to go call a game that was being played in Barcelona, but I was here in Texas, secret being revealed. But that's sometimes how we have to do it in order to be able to be present in multiple places at the same time.
All right, last thing for you. I know we kind of talked about it last time, but just you're here. Let's Aggie football. Optimism is high,
It's always high in August. It's always high in August. Regardless of the season, is always peak peaking in August, and I'm hoping it stays that way. I'm really excited about the team we're getting back. I'm really excited about the players that are coming back and how stuck up we are with experience, which is a must in this day and age. And I'm just hoping that the players understand the shirt they're wearing, the jersey they're putting on for every game, because there's hundreds of thousands like me and like you that not live through the result, right? Because we don't want to call it that way. We just want to live through the effort, the commitment to it, and the representing the jersey that they put on for every game. And that's what if I have a message to relay to them is, of course, worry about the result, because that's what we play. We never play to lose, right? We always play to win. But if we, before winning, end up putting that jersey with a sense of purpose, I'm good with it.
Yeah, that A&M logo needs to mean something when you put it on and you represent Texas A&M. Always love talking to you, my friend. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, David. This is great. Impromptu visits are the best.
I love it. I was like, hey, you can come by whenever, but if you're here, you can do a little radio with me just for a few minutes. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with Around Aggieland. It's TexAgs Radio. And we are back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, and look who's here. Kay Nagley.
Good morning, guys. How are y'all?
Oh, good morning to you.
I know. I'm not in my normal social center chair on Mondays. I've graduated.
You've graduated. You'll help out from time to time, right?
Yeah,
you're not too big.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I will definitely help out. It's just, it's a change for me, so just getting used to it.
By the way, it's time for Around Aggieland. It'll take you a little bit longer to get around Aggieland. Presented by Norman G. State Bank. Norman G. State Bank, rock solid banking. The website, normangstatebank.com. Okay, Miss Nagley, what do we got going on in Around Aggieland?
Yeah, so like you said, it is the first day of school at Texas A&M, so a lot of traffic, a lot of different things going on, I know, on campus, and Howdy Week and all of that. It is my last first day ever, as I am a senior this year. That makes me want to cry, but I actually don't have school today, so technically tomorrow's my
Tomorrow's your first day.
Tomorrow's my first day, so I get to stick around here a little bit more often, but with that being said, 12 days till Aggie football. I know we're all pumped about that. And then a little more news on the football and recruiting news. Texas A&M has added 2024 Maroon Goon with the commitment of Clear Springs offensive lineman Blake Ivy, committed over the weekend. He is the 20th commit of the 2024 class, and he picked the Aggies over Texas and LSU. So always a good pickup when we get one over the Horns and the Tigers. Volleyball, before beginning their season at the 2020 Omaha Invite on Friday, Texas A&M was unfortunately defeated by 15th ranked Baylor in exhibition play at Reed Arena. They lost that 3-1 after the Bears took the first two sets. The Aggies fought back to claim a third, but ultimately fell short in the fourth. So look to bounce back, like I said, at that Omaha Invite coming up, and that will start the Jamie Morrison era. And then as well, some soccer news. Unfortunately, Texas A&M also slumped to 0-2 to start the 2023 campaign as Washington State defeated the Aggies on Sunday night 3-2. They were tied 1-1 at the break, but the Aggies and Cougars split the second half goals on penalties before Washington State found a game winner in the 79th minute. You were at that game,
I was
correct?
at the game, yeah. It was. It just felt like a similar script, unfortunately. But there's a lot of talent there. They'll figure it out.
That's good. We have trust in G, and then that's all I have for me. So I think we'll slowly start to get more as football season gets ramped up, and then of course soccer and volleyball are underway.
Well, there's stuff happening this week, right? So it's going to be busy. Okay. And how many classes are you taking? How many hours? Is that a lot? Am I allowed to ask that?
Yeah, 14 hours. That's not like
a lot with a job here.
Yeah, it'll be all right. Well, I only have class Tuesday, Thursdays. So I can come here Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. I've scheduled this all out.
Okay.
But this is probably my busiest semester. So, but it's like my last fall one, so I have to take.
When do you graduate?
Spring.
You're already done?
I know. I'm old.
What?
I know.
You were like a kid a year ago.
Well, yeah.
And now
I was sitting in that chair over there.
A long time ago. See, Jared, there's still a chance for you, buddy. But wow. So
I know.
Tuesday, Thursdays, how long do you like 8 a.m. to like 5?
I got like 9. Actually, it's not that bad. Like 9:30 to like 2-ish, 3-ish.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah. I'm also in online classes. So
okay.
I've like finessed my schedule to where I can be here. I can make the most of my days for sure. So I got lucky.
Thank you, Kay. Appreciate you.
Of course.
Let's go to Jared there, who's got a few more text messages for us to share. I did ask a couple different questions to start off the show. Teams that you could believe 7-win team, teams that you could believe be a 10-win team. We have some other topics as well to get into. Jared, what do you got?
I don't have any new text messages.
Oh, I thought there was a bunch. Okay. That's interesting. That just made the whole segment awkward. I would have made up a text message on the spot. David, here's one from Billy on Southgate, by the way. Billy
on Southgate. I thought that was funny. Tom Hart. I don't have anything in particular, David.
Nothing
I'm sorry.
on the YouTube?
I mean, this is like
Come
maybe
on,
we.
guys.
Oh no,
We
I
gotta
got
read-
one.
now we got
No.
Oh
I had it. Netflix documentary tomorrow. Swamp Kings, Florida.
Wait, I thought part of it already came out though. No,
I think tomorrow's the official release date.
I know people have been reviewing
the
it.
finale of the Untold documentaries.
For
So
the
we had the
season.
Johnny one and the one about Jake Paul. One I'm missing, and then we have the Florida Swamp Kings one, which I'll definitely be checking out probably before class tomorrow.
I have not watched the one on Balco. You probably don't know what Balco is, right? Do you know what Balco
Not a
is?
fan.
No.
Okay. Nick, you know what Balco is, right? Yes, David, I know what Balco
Yeah,
is.
totally.
Okay. Did you say that like for real or no?
Oh, yeah, of course
Okay.
I do.
So Balco was just Google Balco and Barry Bonds, and there's like swimmers involved. Marion
Oh.
Jones, I believe, involved in it as well.
I've seen
Yeah,
the-
it's just
yeah.
it's steroids. Bottom line, that one I'm super excited to watch. I have not seen that one. The one on Jake Paul, I didn't want to watch it because I'm not a Jake Paul guy. It was really well done. Like it
I was meaning to watch that. I feel like that would be a good watch, but bye.
no music. And we are back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy should be with us here momentarily. So there's somebody asking who our guest was at the 9 o'clock or 9:30 spot. Fernando Palomo was in town, and I asked him to stop by. He came by. He's getting a tour of the facility, studios. What would you call this? The office/studio?
I just call it the studio or the office. Yeah, I guess studio office. We're in the studio inside of the office.
So I know I know that Jared's not a big soccer guy, but he's like, who is that guy? And then you Googled him, you saw, wow, he's a big deal, huge deal.
I mean, I don't keep up with soccer greatly, but I respect soccer. I think it's good. I mean, it's good, you know?
Yeah, all good. So I have a topic that I want to get into until Billy gets here. And it's actually not my topic. I'm stealing it from SEC Mike. He and our friend cousin Shane had a topic on every SEC team, but like, how many wins would make Aggie fans happy? And the question was 9 or 10 happy. And I'm going to ask you guys that, but I'm going to kind of, I think there's levels to this game. There's levels to happiness, right? Are we ever happy? Like, let's be honest. Until you win a national championship, nobody's happy. But happy, like, yes, happy. That's 10 wins. 9 wins is stomachable. It's like, all right, I see progress. All right, this is, next year will be the year. Happy, like, depends what your definition of happy is. But like I was happy after 2020. Like, yeah, we did this. Wait till next year. Like, happy to me has to be like, now there are other circumstances that can throw things in the toilet, if you will. There are things that can happen that like you just make something out of the season. You are happy. The year they went 8-4, I think 9-3 would have been a disappointment going into the season. But after Haynes goes down, the way that season kind of started spiraling, and then the Bama game, they could have easily finished 9-3. I think people would have been happy with 9-3 considering the situation, right? All that being said, when you're talking about what will make you happy, and I'm asking you guys at 979-693-1150, 979-693-1150. If your definition of happy is different than mine is simple. Happy is 10 wins. Happy. Content would be 9. Like, I'd be okay. Like, is there a world where I look at 8 wins and be like, okay, no, I would not okay with it at all. 0, not good with it at all. I can understand how you get there. And those are different conversations, right? But happy to me means getting to a point of, all right, we've planted our flag. We are now one of the big dogs, and we got to do it consistently. And that, to me, starts with double-digit wins with a chance to win an 11th game in the bowl game. Outside of that, like happy, like I'm in the right direction. What's going to keep our program happy? 9 wins, I'm like, all right, I'm content. I think we can be more than that, but I like where we are from where we just were, where we were a year ago. Jerry, you're going to say something?
And yeah, just talking with people, like friends, student body, everything like that. Most people I talk to, especially students, it kind of seems like in general, most people are pretty down on A&M just after last year. A lot of people I've talked to, if they're like, oh yeah, as long as we have like 8 wins, like that's cool. It's like, I want more, but I think in general, if we had a 10-2 season, I think, especially just coming off last season, no one's going to be that unhappy. And I think even 9, I would say the majority of people are going to be okay, at least with 9 wins.
Okay is the
good
answer.
Rebound.
Right? Like, okay and happy are 2 different things.
Yeah, but with how much money and resources we're putting in, I think that we should be more than just okay.
So, like, if I were to eat a sandwich, I'm okay for lunch, right? But if I get a T-bone steak, I'm happy. Like, there's levels to this. There's some really good sandwiches out there. I'm not down on the sandwich community. I'm just saying, like, we're talking about happy, right? We're talking like, oh my, that was an experience.
I didn't know there was an entire community for sandwich eaters, but
Yeah, they have meetings on Thursdays. Actually, at 6 o'clock at the MSC. You should go.
I'm down to go.
Yeah. I mean, they just talk about, like, mustard, mayo, and, like, how you pair it up.
With the amount of clubs we have, I wouldn't be surprised. We might have a sandwich club.
I'm not making this up. You can Google it right now.
Are you being serious?
Google it right
I'm
now
gonna have
on
to
the air.
join.
I want you to Google it. Sandwich Community, Texas A&M, MSC, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Google that.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Boom. See? Told you. That you didn't know. 979-693-1150. Do you find it?
I have not found it
Oh,
yet.
I'll show you. We'll do it at the break.
Sandwich boards, but
There's that too. But there's meetings. I think the guy who leads it's like Teddy Fakey.
I love sandwiches, so I'll have to look into it, David.
All right. Anyway, there are levels to happiness, right? There in double digits is happiness. So, and all of us have our own opinion of it, right? Like those of us who have been through this time and time again, right? Those who have been Aggies for a long time, those who have actually not only applied for their BAS card, have actually gotten it in the mail, and it says member since before I went to school here. To us, I don't want to say a lot makes us happy, but there are things that just I already hear Billy making fun of me behind the glass. Like, oh, he's by himself. He's what's the word he uses? I can hear you. Like, we can hear you making fun of me. It's not new. What is this? My God, Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? Gosh.
Why on earth were you drinking like 7 waters this morning?
I had 3. 1 an hour is the way I like to roll. I shouldn't leave them all on the table.
Is that what goes on? I've never even noticed that.
Yeah, I usually have 2.
You can leave them on the table.
No, he had 2, and I asked if he wanted anything from upstairs. He's like, I'll take 1 more. I was like, all right.
Like, I'll
David's
have
a
2
boss,
hands,
man.
but I'll carry 3.
Well, I like to have 1 per hour. That's how I roll.
I
I'm
like
very
that. I like that.
formulated.
Yeah. Formulaic.
Yeah. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. You like my shirt today?
I mean, I'm not a part of the Metallica community, but yeah, it's good. Good shirt. You went to that show,
I
right?
don't even know what this is. I thought it was like some kind of, monster or something. But it appears to be like a
Explosion?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I thought it was some kind of like, head of something.
So I'm going to start things off with you with a radio topic that is a radio topic. I know you're not big on radio topics, but I'm going to, because
as long as you don't go through you and Olin through another 15 minutes this offseason of if they could just score 1 more touchdown a game, they'd be 10-2. And that was more Olin's voice than yours, but you're the instigator. Of that thing.
Today I countered.
Is it 3 days a week minimum? If they 1 more touchdown a game for this team, they're 10-2.
If they scored 1 less touchdown a game, they
would
would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
So our friend SEC Mike, my good friend SEC Mike,
Yep.
and cousin Shane had this topic, and they went through all the teams in the league. How many wins would it be to make Aggie fans
I
happy?
saw that.
10 or 9? And I maintain happy. There are levels to happiness, right? Happy is 10. Content is 9. We'll be okay with 9.
Yeah.
Happy is 10. You agree with
I
that?
agree with that.
Okay.
And what I would throw in there too is I think realistically, I know, and look, you guys think, and when I say this, there'll be the group that goes, "Oh, it's BS." You know, I think we've heard Olin do this. You know, expectations, no crap. Like I get it when you say the expectations for a program with what A&M's committed, and for Jimbo, and for the people that hired Jimbo, and the fan base, it's higher. It is the expectation for what's poured in, for what's at stake, is SEC title contention pretty regularly. You go to a 12-team playoff, it's reaching the playoffs. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I mean, 3 times in 10 years, like regularly reaching the 12-team college football playoff, which means really regularly being a top 3 team in the SEC, which that's going to be hard out of 16, but that's what the commitment level is around here. So is it a high standard, a high bar? Yeah. Is it one they haven't reached yet? Yeah. I mean, I think we talk about a 12-team playoff. They've probably reached it twice in 11 years. I think I said 3 out of 10 there. So you could do that. And it's not just going into a 12-team playoff and not making a run. It's being one of the best teams in the SEC, which means you're one of the best teams in college football. And that's the commitment level, and they're going to keep trying until they get it right. Just like, you know, people will say, well, A&M's going to try, and they're going to keep cycling through head coaches, and Jimbo's under pressure. But I would also say Jimbo Fisher keeps trying until he gets it right.
Mm-hmm.
Changing a recruiting director after, you know, went from number 1 class back down, and now they're back up again. Going out and hiring Bobby Petrino, making the necessary changes. Like, he's doing it till he gets it right. I think from what it sounds like with these players, they're doing the same. But with all that said, I think 9 wins and a bowl win to finish 10-3. So there's your 9, but I'm going to take it one step further and say if they were to win a bowl game, probably like, you know, some kind of New Year's Day bowl, I think the majority of realistic fans, and not the ones that just want to stomp their feet and be angry and just say, that's not good enough because I'm more competitive than you and I don't play either, but I'm not on the field, but it's not good enough. Or I was on the field and we never won 10 games, but 10-3 is not good enough because I'm older now and I forget. There's that too. There's a lot of that. But with that said, if they were to win 10 games and go 10-3, that's a 9-3 regular season. Would I be running up and down the streets doing backflips if I could? No. Would I be happy with that season? Yeah. Because here's why. You would have jumped from 5-7 to 10-3. Even including bowl games, there haven't been very many 10-win seasons around here. And it would be, in my opinion, that would be Jimbo's second such season. You'd have a top 5 season. It was only 9 wins, 9-1, and a 10-win season. It would also be just their second, or I'm going to say third. Again, I'm not buying it. You're not getting me to give in to your BS. It would be the third kind of 10-win season. We'll go 10-win season / top 5 finish only in 12 years since joining the SEC. So it would be a very good thing if A&M could get to 10-3, even if that was a 9-3, kind of like you said, satisfied but not happy. I think at 10, I'm happy. They would have doubled their win total. And then you got to say, how do they get there? On that schedule to get to 10 wins, counting a bowl, you're going to have some real quality wins in there. There's going to be a streak at some point in the season, probably. There would be, even if you went 1 early loss, 1 middle, 1 end, where you've risen pretty high in the rankings. And more than likely, there's going to be a stretch in there where you put together a winning streak where you're making some real noise. Maybe you go into Bama 5-0 and ranked in the top 10 and have a huge showdown at Kyle, and maybe you drop Bama and LSU and something in between, so the second half isn't as good. There would still be a couple of decent wins in there. Or maybe you beat Bama, lose one before maybe, and beat Bama, go on a little streak and maybe drop one late. So I think to get there, the journey would have you in a pretty good spotlight all year. But it would maintain this recruiting that the texter asked. It was a great question. What does it take to kind of maintain the level it takes to stay in championship contention? And I think 9-3 with a nice bowl win to send you off would. More specifically, though, to get there, I think A&M would have to have that offense, that extra touchdown in game, and probably more so. Score in the 30s offensively, and guess what? There's a world where you could return every starter or 4 or 5 starters on the O-line. If not, there's plenty of depth incoming that you really like. You'll return all the running backs. You'll return – you got Evan, still young, Noah. You've got some real, Jade Walker, I think, will play some this year, quite a bit, actually. In theory, Moose could even come back. You got a lot of weapons at receiver and tight end, running back, and your quarterback will be returning. And to get there to 10, I think your quarterback's going to have a great year. The offense will have succeeded under Bobby Petrino in year 1. Then think about what that means to the future of the program moving forward. A&M's a preseason top 10 team if all that comes together, and I think that would make most people happy to say, okay, we're back on the track, we're back on the path, and we're not pretending to be. That legitimately push us back up there, because now you look at what's returning, and I think that type of season without a lot of lows and a lot more highs and lows is also how you retain kids in this world of NIL and transfer portal.
Billy, I think one of the markers for a good team is something that we have experienced in your writing. I recommend everybody check out the Become a Premium Member to see what Billy wrote up about the scrimmage this past weekend. But where one week the offense is cooking, the next week the defense is cooking. That's not a tell-all for success.
Yeah.
But I like the direction that it's not always the defense having their way. I like the back and forth, the chess match.
I do too, unless you know one of them's elite. If you know that you've got a top 5 Georgia kind of defense, because I bet the Georgia defense over the last few years has kicked the crap out of the Georgia offense. And Stetson, the mailman Bennett, has probably got his ass handed to him a lot of days out there in Athens in practice, much more so than he ever did during games. And they could have the world's greatest tight end. And I bet there are a lot of practices where that Georgia defense gives him the business, particularly early in his career. So, yeah, if you knew you had a top 5 unit on either side of the ball in college football, then I think it's a little different. I think, yeah, you'd love to see that other unit step up. Oh, man, this A&M offense is going against the top 5 defense, and they're putting together good days because we know what the defense – that's optimal. But if it's defense dominated or offense dominated, you better be truly elite, one of the best in the sport on either side of that ball. And that's not been the case so far at A&M this fall. What I mean by that is not that they can't be elite on either side, but it's been back and forth. With that said, and I go back to, if anybody's watching Ole Miss practice right now, or Mississippi State, or LSU, and some of them, our LSU people, they love to get fooled. They got fooled on thought they made the world's greatest coup with somebody in the transfer portal from A&M. They thought Brian Kelly could never lose. They thought they were upgraded. Every time they didn't get Jimbo, they thought some of them knew about Ed O, but most of them, thought they'd. I guess they'd probably take that. They won. They got rid of him and got their championship, and they got to say he sucked at the end of the day, which he did. He had some incredible players that he walked into. But, LSU, if you're watching LSU right now and you're not scared to death of what they don't have at the cornerback position, that's DBU over there. That's how they won so many of these championships. If you're watching South Carolina and you're fooled into thinking, well, they beat Clemson and they beat, they beat Clemson in Tennessee, and Spencer Rattler's, he's a Heisman candidate, and, Beamer's going to go emulate his dad and have 30 years of greatness as a head coach. If you think all those things, you're just covering the program, and you you haven't either been doing this long enough, or you can't get past what you see right in front of you, because you can't watch any of those teams. And I promise you, Bama fans are not doing it because they're not used to seeing it, so they really recognize it. But if you're watching any of those teams, Miami, same thing, and you're not going, oh, we got some legitimate issues here, and here. Arkansas, too, although they're a little delusional over there in Fayetteville, too, when it comes to their teams. I get the feeling they think they're double-digit every year.
Right.
And I don't know if they've sniffed it more than once since A&M's been in the SEC. But if you're not seeing that, you're blinded. So I'm sitting here telling you, yeah, it's nice that there's some give and take, offense, defense, but there are real concerns, I think, on both sides of the ball. We've talked about the offense. I think the line, I know they've made tremendous strides. I just talked to enough people at every different level of this to say, yeah. But that doesn't mean they're going to go out when New Mexico throws 47 different stunts and twists and high-risk blitzes and just mortgaging the farm, to just see if the A&M passing game can connect down the field.
Right.
See if the Aggies can gash them when there is a bust, where they can take advantage in the run game and rip off a big play. Because if they can't, they'll make the offense not look as good, and everybody will go, uh-oh, we don't know what we have going into Miami. I'm not saying close game or A&M loses. I'm saying we sit here afterwards and go, oh, I don't know. And that all hinges on blocking in game one. I'm not sure about it yet. I'm very encouraged, and I do think if you made me say good line or bad offensive line, I'll say good this year. I am convinced of that.
But not to the level yet.
But it still has to be a concern. You are going to start a quarterback either in Wiggy that impressed the hell out of you in his last game and 2 of his 3 SEC starts, but still is very much unproven over the long haul of a season, or you're going to go Max Johnson, who didn't win the job to start last season, came in, looked good, and then left. We watched him really for 2.5 games. I like their quarterback situation, but until one of them's out there, and let's say it's Connor. I mean, he did have a tremendous scrimmage Saturday. I wrote about it. Go read about it. Threw several touchdown passes. He was really on fire. And this is part of the thing I say about the fall camp, Nuño, the reports. Like, you guys want reports. And then I say one where a guy, I say the quarterbacks struggled, plural, because the defense kicked ass in the first scrimmage. And I get everything from, people calling to passive-aggressively say, well, I don't know. You guys think I respond to that crap? It's the worst way to be with me, is to try to – no one ever tell me how to write or what to say on this show, ever, or to write in writing, ever. I don't give a damn who you are. So if you're listening and it's you, I'm talking to you. You should pick up the phone and call me and try to tell me how to do things. See how that goes for you. But to me, like, Connor comes out in the last scrimmage, because there's 2. For a long time, there's been 3. I think they're getting confused, though, with spring. There are 2, and then they do a simulated game. So Connor comes out in the last scrimmage, and by all accounts, Max was good too. But Connor comes out and is dealing, and he's locked in, and he has what might be his best practice of fall camp, and what a perfect time to do it. And, you've heard me say all along, I think Connor is the starter. I think he's the full-time or the long-term future of the program. But I also said Max Johnson, they're not giving it to Connor, and Max will do everything he can to take it and make Connor earn it. And that's why we still haven't heard anything as of today. But I think Connor, the way he finished the season, and sounds like the way he's finishing up, down the stretch here in fall camp, was great. But, my real question is the O-line on offense and David on defense along those lines of Wigman and Max both having big days Saturday. I still have serious concerns about the A&M secondary. You can say, well, safety's really strong. They've been not anything significant injury-wise, but they've been in and out throughout camp. So there hasn't been a great deal of just consistency with who's out there back there. Damani early, Jacoby's been in and out. I think Jordan Gilbert's probably been pretty consistent. Bryce, but Bryce missed a little bit of time too. Dalton Brooks banged up Saturday. Kerr had missed a lot of time early. So there's a lot of, kind of inconsistency back there just because of the different bodies. And at corner is where I have real concern because I haven't heard yet, hey, Tyreek Chappelle's looking like a first-team All-SEC corner. That was the next step of the progression for guys like him and Edgerrin Cooper that the Aggies needed to see. And you'd hope to hear, needed to see. It's not to say he can't do it, but I haven't just heard rave reviews. The guy I hear about most really has been like a Javon Thomas, who's a true freshman.
Right.
He's never played. That's a concern at corner, much like LSU has one right now.
All right, way late for a break. We'll come back with 23 and 23, which is brought to you by the Charger Barrel, and that's what I'm talking about right now. An Aggie-owned, purpose-driven apparel brand. They are so good, guys. You got to check out the Premier fabric that they have. Very lightweight, slightly tailored to fit. They have the same Premier fabric suppliers that used by Lululemon and the other elite brands out there. They feature a slightly tailored fit through the chest and the arms designed to make you look and feel your absolute best. They are Aggie-owned and operated. The Charger Apparel is owned by two Aggies, class of 2014. They met in the Parsons Mounted Cavalry and the Corps of Cadets. Tucker was a member of E2, Travis Squadron 2. And then after graduating, Tucker was commissioned to the U.S. Army and Travis commissioned to the Air Force. After they separated from the military, they started the Charge Apparel as a way to continue to serve our country through veteran nonprofits that they support. So 12% of total sales, not just profits, are donated to veteran nonprofit partners with a focus on mental health initiatives. That's right, an ode to the 12th man. They stand in support of our servicemen and women by donating 12% of their total sales to organizations supporting those veterans and mental health initiatives. The website is thechargeapparel.com, thechargeapparel.com. Find them on Instagram, the Charge Apparel, or on Twitter, the Charge Brand. All right, we are back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Got a bunch of text messages coming in. Let's try to get to a couple of those before Billy gets back in studio, and we start off our 23 and 23, which is number 5, Damani Richardson. Jared Schultz there at the News and Social Center. Jared?
Yeah, from a 713 number, it says, what would make me happy as an Aggie fan is no self-induced losses. If we lose, but we brought it, no issues.
All right, I can deal with that. I can certainly deal with that. One more, let's get it.
And then Joe from Brian says, I want Liucci's thoughts on Samu. A lot of players have mentioned him as a breakout.
Billy, any thoughts on Samu Anupepe that you can provide?
No, other than I think, but same thing Bronny and I talked about when they offered him and then when they took him. We're like-minded in the fact that I like seeing, just like guys like Jordan Anthony from Kentucky who had a long touchdown and another long play. I think Marcel Reed was on the passing end of one, and then so was Max, which I wrote about, but Marcel was as well. Like when you go get a Jordan Anthony, when you go get an Ernest Campbell from Refugio, even when they added A-Chain, there were some. A-Chain had such a tremendous career, and here at TexAgs, we thought he was a no-brainer. But there were some that would go. I think there was some debate over there in the building, and it was, because you remember who they were recruiting at running back that year. It was like E.J. Smith or the Nata kid out of California, and obviously it was Zach Evans. And the question was, with A-Chain, it was kind of, is he an every down back? Is he? Right. But I think eventually people stood up on the table and said, we don't have speed like this in our program, and we need it. So when you can be a guy that adds something different. If there was a guy right now that A&M was recruiting and I said, man, I don't know, he's really a tweener, but damn, he can get after the quarterback. I don't know if he's an end or an outside. You take him 100 times out of 100 because guess what? You need more of that.
Right.
If there was a raw but exceptionally gifted athlete that could play corner every time. It's also why Terry Bussey's so important. He's a 5-star for a reason. It's because of how gifted he is athletically. And A&M, I think, continues to need to upgrade athletically at that cornerback spot. That's why they love Javon Thomas so much. He's such a gifted athlete out there. People that followed his recruitment know he played a lot more running back than anything else for South Oak Cliff. If I was looking at Samu, I'd say I'm excited about him being a guy that, as a true freshman, contributes because you can't root that dude out of there. You can't, and two guys have a hard time doing it, and he's shown that even up here. It's not just, Bronny talked about it, and I had two people text me from the game there that played football at A&M in the trenches when they went and watched Katie play Atascocita, and they're just like, this dude, you can't move him.
Right.
He's ridiculous. And I think that's going to be the case here as well. Short yardage, goal line. I think what you don't want to do and you want to be careful of is against some of these tempo teams, getting him caught out there in a bad situation where it's several plays in a row and there's some, fatigue that sets into a guy that's north of probably 360.
Since we went so long in that first segment, let's hit a break here to get back on the clock. We'll come back with our 23 and 23. Right now we're talking Costa Vida. That's the place to go for your breakfast, place to go for your lunch and your dinner. It's just a one-stop shop that's so good. If you go there in the morning, you can have your morning meetings there. You can have your coffee and really enjoy it. The lunch menu is fantastic. You can get and dinner as well, right? You got the quesadillas, you got the chicken chipotle chicken salad, you got the shrimp and taco mango salsa, the chips and queso. They've got it all, and they've got specialty drinks as well. Limonada, Horacha. I'm trying to say it in my English voice. Seasonal agua fresca, quesadilla, lemonade.
Quesadilla.
Quesadilla. You can have some quesadillas there, some fresh fruit as well. It is Costa Vida in South College Station, Aggie owned and operated. They bring it every time you go there. Holly's always happy, smiling over there. Make sure you say hello to her when you visit 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. Again, that is 4501 Mills Park Circle in South College Station. And by the way, they do have that 15% student discount with valid student ID. Cannot be combined with other offers. So make sure now that you're in town, you check it out. It's Costa Vida. And we are back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is now time for 23 and 23, presented by the Charge Apparel. Aggie owned and operated. Premier polos and tees made in the USA. 12% of total sales are donated to organizations supporting veterans and mental health initiatives. You can visit them at thechargeapparel.com or find them on Instagram at thechargeapparel or Twitter, the Charge brand. The reason I pronounced it that way was my good friend Billy Liucci and Jocko Willick both said, the last time I heard you say it, you said a Charge Apparel. You didn't say the word charge. And I know it becomes a thing just like that. What was the other thing I used to say? I'm sure I still say it. Last year. Instead of saying last year, I make it an LASH, last year. But our number 5 on the list is Damani Richardson. And as the segment begins, Billy leaves the studio. We'll get Billy's thoughts on Damani. And one of the things we touched on in the 8 o'clock hour, the easy go-to things with Damani Richardson are his leadership and his knack for big plays. You get a refill of coffee down here? Like, there's a little Keurig?
Yeah, I bought like a Dunkin' on the way.
Oh. Good times. So Damani Richardson's our number 5 out there, Billy. And easy. As I was saying earlier, the easy things, the go-to things, knack for big plays, leadership. Those are the go-to things, but there's more that make Damani.
What have been the big plays? I'd like to go through them. Obviously, the pick in the end zone against Bama in that massive win. What a play that was. You go back and realize how close that game was and how A&M won. That was a – we talk about the A-Chain return. We talk about Calzada's touchdown throw to Anais. Those were obviously the two that stand out more than any. But there were so many small plays that mattered in that game. But that was not a small one. That was a massive play that wiped away 3 and probably 7 points for Bama. Ignited that crowd. He damn near pick-sixed it 100-plus yards. His momentum carried him out of bounds. Obviously, the play against Arkansas, again, complete and total game-changing play. And I know it was Chappelle. It was Chappelle that ripped the ball away.
Yep.
Pitched it to him, but Damani really heads up, kind of said, give me the ball. Give it to me, and took off. Then it was LSU.
This year.
Great play by Edger and Cooper on Jaden Daniels. But, again, Damani being right there, scoop and score. I remember late in that Bama game, or Auburn game, the big win 20-3, when it was, I think it was maybe 9-3 or something like that. Damani had I think maybe even 2 sacks of Bo Nix, but at least one big one. He's had some massive plays, and then really should have won the LSU game for Texas A&M in Baton Rouge had the officials called that play correctly. He's got a game-changing strip on a punt return that ends the game. So he certainly has a knack for the big play. I think as much as anything, the fact that Damani came back, he's going to start for a 5th year in the SEC. You know how much experience this guy's got playing in this league, and he's been banged up some, but he hasn't missed a lot of games.
Right.
You know, in one of those seasons, I think it was 2 years ago, he was pretty banged up. But he hasn't missed. He's played a ton of football games. He's seen it all. You know, there he is against Ole Miss. Like A&M struggled mightily last year against Ole Miss, but he's played against that Ole Miss offense now under Lane Kiffin. This will be his 3rd time through. There's going to be some youth in that secondary, and I think for Damani to be such a veteran, not just on the back end of that defense, but in the secondary, on that defense in general. And then there's a leadership thing about it. There's a situation where you want as many grown men versus fresh out of high school people playing in your program on the field on Saturdays. Damani checks that box with 5 years in the A&M weight room. Him coming back, we talk, I think, the most about McKinley and Anias because McKinley really has a chance to explode this year as one of the SEC's very best. Anias, we know, an offensive skill guy, special teams weapon. We don't talk about guys like Damani and Layden coming back enough.
Yeah.
And particularly Damani because he's a year older. So he's coming back for a rare 5th year as a starter. Now I think about it, I don't know if I've ever known an A&M player to start 5 years. Somebody correct me there. Because you're dealing with COVID seasons now. You're dealing with years where guys can play 4 games in red shirt. I don't know if anybody started those 4 games in red. I guess you could get hurt, but I don't remember a player at Texas A&M starting for essentially 5 seasons, and that's what you're going to have with Damani. So that experience, that physical maturity where he could very easily be in an NFL training camp right now. He's on your defense. And just that presence in the locker room because he's a great teammate. He's great. He's great culture guy. You don't hear about Damani getting in trouble. He's been, a model kid in the program since he's been. So, man, ultra important back there. I think I'm really excited about some of these young defenders on this football team, and maybe some of them go higher in the draft than Damani. And I do think him coming back is going to give him a much better chance to solidify a draft status that was a little uncertain coming off the injuries that he was. He's going to help himself, but he's really going to help this football team by returning. So at some point when you rank these guys, and I don't even remember where I had Damani ranked, it was pretty high, but sometimes you have to remember like presence in the locker room, presence in the off season, and then production on Saturdays. And experience freaking matters in this league. If you don't believe me, go look at last year at A&M on both lines of scrimmage. They were too young. They were too inexperienced. They got exposed. They were very inexperienced at quarterback. From Haynes to Connor and even in between with Max, inexperience in this system at A&M with the receivers he was playing. Inexperience matters. There's nothing I value more than quality experience. I don't want some old guy hanging around the program that can't play. That's not the case with guys like McKinley, Damani, Anias, Layden. That is experience that is invaluable. And so Damani, to me, checks every box you want on a guy that you want to go to battle with in the SEC. If there's one thing I want to see Damani have where we watch him this year and you realize he's a much better tackler in space. And that's a lot of safeties, but particularly Damani because he's built almost like a linebacker. So he's not like trying to tackle an Anias Smith or an Evan Stewart in space. He's so much bigger, and so I think it's a little tougher. But I'm talking about more in run support. That's where I'd like to see him. And I'd like to see DJ Durkin utilize that size and that physicality because Damani ain't scared. He'll hit you. We know that. I want to see him utilize that size and physicality, maybe with sometimes playing him a little closer to the line of scrimmage.
Let's hit a break here. We'll come back with some final thoughts. I do want to ask you about Blake Ivy. Big deal over the weekend. We haven't gotten into that yet. Plus some other little tidbits. It's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back, everybody. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's try to get another text message as we close out the show here. We go to Jared there at the News and Social Center. Jared, tell us what's popping there.
Yeah, Wendy in College Station asks, can Bryce Anderson be used at corner? He's so athletic, I wonder if it's been considered.
I haven't heard his name listed at that. I'll ask Billy that. I don't think it's being considered right now. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I have not heard that. I think Bryce Anderson is talented enough to do anything. Would I be surprised by him doing that? No. I mean, he's that level of good. But I am very concerned with the depth there and the production. So that is something to keep an eye on. Billy talked a little bit about it, that nobody's kind of blown somebody away there at camp. So that's something to keep our eyes on. All right, Jared, what else?
And then we have from a 214 number. It says, I do love flying under the hype radar after the last few years. I could not agree more. I love being the underdog.
There's something about flying under the radar that serves a couple of first, like you could be like Tennessee last year. I think Tennessee flew under the radar even during the season. Like people kept on saying, when's the jig going to be up? It wasn't until they beat Bama that people started taking them serious, right? Like, and now you're midway into the season, got a heck of a resume. You're on track to be a 10-win team. Like, there is something to be said about that. A&M could certainly be that. But the bottom line is, like, I don't want to me, that fits the narrative of a team that gets there every once in a while, which has been A&M. I don't want to be under the radar. I just want to be great every year, right? Like, all right, pencil them in for 10 wins. That's what I want. That's, again, I bring everything back to what I thought when they hired Jimbo in 2017. All right, now we've arrived. We're a 10-win team every year. 9 wins are our bad year, right? Not 5, not 8. Like, 9 is our bad year. That's what I want. And I don't want to fly under the radar. I want people to know A&M's coming again, and they're coming again, and they're knocking on the door again every year. But I understand your point there because there is something to that, right? There is something about, the way that, like, I feel like with A&M especially, the years that we are expected to do great automatically go back. And the years that they don't, it's the reversal. Bill, I did want to ask you before our show's up here in 6-ish minutes about Blake Ivy. Big pickup over the weekend and just solidifying an incredible offensive line class.
Yeah, I think that O-line, you look at the needs in the class and you were going, okay, quarterback was certainly one. They've got 2 nice commitments there. Linebacker. And if they can cap that off with a guy like Xavier Atkins, and that's terrific. That'd be a great 4-man haul at linebacker. And so to me, really, if I was going, I'd say linebacker, O-line, quarterback, I kind of almost say that's an annual thing. But they're killing it at receiver. But where the dire need was, it was at linebacker and O-line. And I'm looking at O-line right here's Blake Ivy just moving bodies. But to have 5 commits right now and those guys, especially up there at the top, and Blake goes up there, they could go anywhere in the country. And you look at Ivy and you watch this guy move athletically for his size. He reminds me a lot of like a Cedric Ogbuehi, but he's so much further along physically than Ced was at that age. I mean, physically, not athletically. Cedric is one of the best offensive line athletes I've ever seen come through A&M. But Blake kind of has that similar athleticism, but he's bigger at probably 285 than Ced. Ced as a recruit was, I think, probably around 260. And Cedric was a top 15 player in the state. So don't get me wrong. He was not some sleeper or some, Ernest Crownover. I mean, not Ernest, he's running back. Demetrius Crownover was more of a, oh my gosh, look at that frame and what he could project at. He's playing DN and tight end at a small school. What you look at him and go, man, what if he's an offensive or defensive tackle down the road? And here he is as an OT, and he's really starting to develop. So a lot of times when you say, oh, this guy's a great athlete as an O-lineman, you immediately jump to, is he a project? Cedric was an incredible high school lineman at Allen that just got better and better. The projection was simply, how is he going to fill out?
Mm-hmm.
Blake Ivy, he's one of these guys that there's very little to project because you can watch tape and see him. And you can take that athleticism and go, that's elite, but he's also already 285. So he's already playing with this level of physicality that you go, man, now you start wondering him at 315, which will be easy for him to get to. That dude and the last commit and Papa Afua, they're going to be just throwing people around in the SEC trenches. And it's always great to beat LSU for an in-state target because that is what Texas A&M has to do in order to stay, in the conversation of ascending SEC programs. You've got to – it's hard enough, when you're going head-to-head with Texas for all these players, and that's what and Blake at Texas wanted him as well. But when you're in a head-to-head at the finish line with an LSU, with a Bama, with an Oklahoma, you need to win. And A&M has won. They're kicking OU's ass head-to-head generally. And Oklahoma, as soon as I say that, they'll get a guy or two. But when you go head-to-head with LSU for a Texas kid, you got to win as many of those as possible. And the Aggies under Jimbo have done a very good job of that. But this was the latest example, and I think it's one of the biggest examples because I think Blake Ivy is a very early contender to start at A&M. He's that good. And you look, again, like I said, at this O-line class, it's an addressed need with a freaking exclamation point.
Thank you, Billy. Appreciate you. And thank you to Nick and, of course, Jared and Louie back at the mothership for finishing out the show. It is TexAgs Radio. We'll see you mañana.